Chapter 14. Poplar Fruit, where are you? The baby is sick. Fong Wenjing's anxious voice came from the phone. Poplar Fruit's heart suddenly jumped. He almost shouted, "Kiki is sick? How is she?" His shouting attracted the attention of the other passengers on the bus, but Poplar Fruit didn't have time to care. "Poplar Fruit, don't worry. Her hands and feet are cold now. She might have caught a cold. I've never encountered this before. We're going to take her to the hospital." Yes, take her to the hospital." Poplar Fruit looked out the window, estimated his location, and said, "You can take her to the 3rd hospital in the province. I know a doctor there. I can call him now. Let's meet at the entrance." The 3rd hospital in the province was the hospital where Kiki was born. With head nurse Zhang there, it might be more convenient. Poplar Fruit anxiously waited for the bus to stop at the next stop. As soon as the door opened, he quickly jumped off. Poplar Fruit's mind was almost completely focused on Kiki. He didn't know what was going on with her. If Fong Wenjing, who had always been calm, was so anxious, it meant that the situation was very bad. He couldn't wait to fly to Kiki's side. Seeing an empty taxi coming from afar, Poplar Fruit hurriedly jumped from the bus stop to the middle of the road. He almost stood at the front of the car to stop the taxi. When he opened the door, Poplar Fruit heard the taxi driver scolding him. "Driver, I'm really sorry. My daughter is sick and I have to rush to the hospital. I have no choice but to stop the taxi." I'm sorry, Poplar Fruit interrupted him. The driver glanced at the young man in the rearview mirror, whose forehead was sweating, and sighed. "Forget it. Seeing you like this, I won't scold you. Be careful next time. It's so dangerous. Where are you going?" "The 3rd hospital in the province." "Driver, please drive faster," Poplar Fruit said. In the car, he didn't stay idle. He took out his phone and called head nurse Jiang. "Hello, Xiaoyang? Auntie Jiang, it's me. Are you on duty tonight?" The environment around head nurse Jiang did not sound like a hospital. "I'm not on duty tonight." "Xiaoyang, what happened? Did something happen to your daughter?" "Yes, I just received a call from the neighbor. He said that Kiki's hands and feet are cold. I don't know what's wrong with her. Maybe she has a cold, so I want to take her to the hospital." Head nurse Zhang's voice became very serious. She said over the phone, "His hands and feet are cold. It might not be a cold. It might be a newborn with low temperature. What kind of disease is this? Is it dangerous?" Poplar Fruit's voice trembled. "It depends on the severity. If the situation is more serious, I'm afraid it will cause convulsions, organ damage, or even shock." Head nurse Zhang's answer made Poplar Fruit's heart sink into an ice cave. His breathing became ragged, and his right hand gripped the phone so tightly that it made a squeaking sound. "But you don't have to be afraid. Hurry up and send her to the hospital. If the situation isn't that serious, she'll recover very quickly." Head nurse Jiang could hear his anxiety and comforted him. "I'm not on duty tonight, but Xiao Yan is. I'll help you talk to her and get her to help you register for emergency treatment. When you arrive, she'll take you directly to the doctor." Nurse Tsun was the one who taught him how to bathe Kiki the other day. Poplar Fruit still had an impression of her. "Thank you, Auntie Jiang. I'll contact her when I arrive." Poplar Fruit's voice became a little low, and he hung up after saying a few more words. Poplar Fruit arrived at the hospital first. He stood at the entrance of the hospital and stuck his head out to search for Fong Wenjing and the rest through the crowd. He was pushed around by the passers-by, and it took him a lot of effort to find his footing. His originally neat formal attire had become extremely messy. Finally, Poplar Fruit saw Lu Gillen's little 4-wheeled motorcycle. He hurriedly rushed to the side of the car. Fong Wenjing opened the car door and carried Kiki out. Poplar Fruit hurriedly took her. Kiki's little face was a little pale, and her breathing was very weak. When he touched her little face, it was cold and made his heart ache. "She might have caught a cold," Fong Wenjing said. "I'll take her to the doctor first." Poplar Fruit turned around and said without turning his head, Poplar Fruit unbuttoned his suit jacket and hugged Kiki tightly in his arms, hoping to use his body temperature to warm up her cold little body. He used all his strength to push through the crowd and loudly shouted, "Make way, please make way." When he ran to the gynecology and pediatrics building, Nurseson was already waiting at the entrance. Nurseson glanced at Kiki and didn't make any small talk. She waved at Poplar Fruit and said, "Hurry up and follow me." Nurseson brought Poplar Fruit to a middle-aged doctor's room. The doctor took Kiki from Poplar Fruit's hands and began to examine her. Poplar Fruit saw the doctor's face gradually become serious. He became more and more nervous. He asked anxiously, "Doctor, how's her condition?" The doctor shook his head and said, "Her condition isn't very good. She'll go into shock soon." "Is it because of other diseases?" Seeing that Poplar Fruit didn't understand, the doctor explained, "In other words, did she have septicemia, pneumonia, suppurative meningitis, or other infectious diseases before?" Poplar Fruit shook his head and said, "No, she was fine when she was discharged from the hospital. This kind of problem suddenly occurred today." Nurseson said, "Could it be because of today's rain and the cold?" The doctor nodded and said to Poplar Fruit, "It's possible." "Did you take the child out today?" Poplar Fruit said, "She's at my neighbor's shop today. I have to go to work today, so I asked my neighbor to take care of her." "That's right. It's always colder outside than at home when it rains. You adults can't feel it, but this is a child. She's just born, and her body's thermoregulation center hasn't developed fully. It's very easy for her to be affected by changes in the environment. So it's best not to let such a young child go out. Try to keep her at home." Poplar Fruit lowered his head and said, "Yes, yes. Since it's not caused by other diseases, then it's better. Let's inject her with glucose first, then warm her up in the incubator for observation," the doctor said. "The treatment method here is pure nonsense. Please do not imitate." During the intravenous injection, Poplar Fruit saw the doctor insert the cold needle into Kiki's delicate little hand. He felt like his heart was being cut by a knife, and he felt very uncomfortable. With such a long needle in, Kiki suffered so much. When the needle was pulled out, thin blood oozed out of the needle hole on Kiki's little arm, and the cotton swab on it was dyed red. Poplar Fruit couldn't bear to turn his head, and he couldn't help but cry. Kiki was sent to the incubator. Poplar Fruit stood outside and watched, his heart full of self-blame. At this time, Lu Gillen and Fong Wenjing came over. Fong Wenjing said with an apologetic face, "Poplar Fruit, it's all my fault. I didn't take good care of Kiki." Lu Gillen said, "Wenjing is brainless. She treats Kiki as Little Dong. She doesn't think about how old Little Dong is, and Kiki is just born. How can she be exposed to the wind outside?" Poplar Fruit shook his hand and said, "No, no, no. It's not your fault. Don't think like that. It's all my fault. I didn't think it through. You were working outside. I'm very grateful that you took time to help take care of Kiki. It's all my idea. How can I blame you?" It would be a lie if Yonghua said that she didn't have any complaints about her daughter's condition after catching a cold. When he saw his daughter just now, he felt that it was all because Lu Gillen didn't take good care of her. So he didn't talk to them at the entrance of the hospital. He ran away with Kiki in his arms. But now he thought about it. In fact, he only had himself to blame. If he hadn't left Kiki to work, none of this would have happened. He agreed to let Fong Wenjing take care of Kiki in the shop. How could he blame others for not thinking it through? After all, others didn't have this obligation. It was already a great kindness to be willing to take care of his child. How could Poplar Fruit give this kind couple a hard time? Lu Gillen and Fong Wenjing packed dinner for him outside. Poplar Fruit took it and comforted them and persuaded them to go home. After all, they still had Xiao Dong at home. If there were any accidents, Poplar Fruit wouldn't have the face to see them again. After dinner, Poplar Fruit stood outside the ward and stayed with her all night. Seeing that Kiki's face gradually became rosy and her little face regained its luster, the big stone hanging in his heart slowly fell down. That night, Poplar Fruit thought a lot. If Poplar Fruit didn't go to work at the beginning, Kiki wouldn't have left the warm home and lay in the cold shop in the heavy rain. If Poplar Fruit didn't leave Kiki's side at the beginning, Kiki wouldn't have cried so heartbreakingly because she couldn't see her father. Perhaps it was because of crying so loudly for so long that Kiki became weak, and then the cold could take advantage of it. If Poplar Fruit had taken care of Kiki from the beginning, he could have noticed the changes in Kiki's body and found out that Kiki's body temperature had dropped early. Then, Kiki wouldn't have been pricked by needles and wouldn't have to go back to the hospital to suffer. Poplar Fruit felt that it was a wrong choice to go back to work. Kiki was too young. As a parent, how could he leave her and not be by her side? However, when Poplar Fruit thought about not going to work, he was confused. If he didn't go to work, what would he use to support Kiki? Kiki's milk powder cost about 1,500 yuan a month. There were also checkups, medical treatment, vaccinations, and so on. It was a huge expense, and he had to eat and pay rent. If he didn't work, how many months would he be able to support himself with the less than 20,000 yuan in his card? Did he have to ask his parents for help? They were all adults. Poplar Fruit really couldn't bring himself to ask his parents for money. Poplar Fruit felt that he was in a dilemma. He now understood that he had underestimated the difficulty of raising a child. No, I can't blame others like this. I have to think of a way. Poplar Fruit's clever brain began to work crazily. He searched every piece of his memory and pieced together every possibility, hoping to find a solution. The wisdom given by the literati star was indeed abnormal. Not long after, Poplar Fruit found a ray of hope in his memory. That was a year ago. Poplar Fruit was on a whim. He published a lot of good quality translations on the translation network and received the attention of many translation companies. He received many invitations from companies in his account. However, at that time, Poplar Fruit was doing well in a foreign trade company and was valued by the department manager. Poplar Fruit was in his honeymoon period and didn't have the time to consider these translation companies. Poplar Fruit recalled that many companies invited him to register with them. The messages in the account said that he could earn 10,000 yuan a day by translating at home. He didn't care before, but now these companies were Poplar Fruit's life-saving straw. Without needing to log in again, with Poplar Fruit's photographic memory, he clearly remembered the contact details of all the companies that invited him. One of them was known as the largest translation company in South China called Xinda. It was located in Yongcheng. For Kiki, Poplar Fruit had made up his mind. He was willing to give up his 1 year of hard work and start over. Chapter 15. The next morning, Poplar Fruit entrusted Kiki, who had finally recovered, to head nurse Jiang, who had just come to work. Although Poplar Fruit was determined to resign last night, he still needed to go back to the company to explain to the manager face to face and hand over the work. Reluctantly looking back at his daughter who had fallen asleep after drinking her morning milk, Poplar Fruit secretly said in his heart, "Kiki, don't worry, Dad will be back soon, and I will always protect you in the future." Poplar Fruit took the subway back to the company. After a night, the company was still the same as before, with the sweet voice of the receptionist, the clean and tidy desk, and the hot eyes behind him. Poplar Fruit sighed in his heart. Although he was somewhat reluctant to leave the achievements he had made in the past year, he still had to leave. After more than an hour at work, Poplar Fruit still did not see Du Ronghui's shadow, and he was a little anxious. He was looking around in his seat, fidgeting, when Du Ronghui came in with a big tea jar, looking like he had just come back from a meeting. "Everyone, listen carefully." Du Ronghui patted the table with his right hand. Everyone in the office looked at Du Ronghui in unison. "This morning, I went to the company's work meeting and received a notice." Du Ronghui habitually paused. "Next month, the company needs to go to Yingjili to participate in a goods exhibition organized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This is the company's most critical overseas exhibition project this year, and it also relates to whether the company can get a big overseas order, so this is very important. So, our business department also needs to send people. This time, our company has given 3 places. In addition to me leading the team, the remaining 2 places are Poplar Fruit and Wu Kaiyan. Although Poplar Fruit has just joined the company, he won first place in March and April, and Wu Kaiyan was first in the first 2 months of this year. I hope everyone has no objections to my arrangement. Du Ronghui's arrangement was also a consistent tradition in the department. Those who could get first place in the monthly performance often had better benefits than others. Although everyone was very envious of the opportunity to travel abroad at public expense, they did not feel that it was unfair. Bao Chunfang and the other employees all applauded. Of course, Han Tao was an exception. At this time, Brian was sitting in the back, staring at Poplar Fruit. His eyes were full of jealousy and hatred. Yesterday, he had lost face, while Poplar Fruit had stolen the limelight. Now, Poplar Fruit had obtained such a good opportunity to travel abroad. If it weren't for Poplar Fruit's interference, he would have been the top performer in March. Then, the one who would be in the limelight and be looked up to would not be Poplar Fruit, but Han Tao. His hatred for Poplar Fruit had deepened. Poplar Fruit once fantasized about working hard and becoming the backbone of the company after a few years of hard work. Then, he would be able to travel abroad with the company every year like an old employee like Wu Kaiyan. She didn't expect happiness to come so quickly, so suddenly, and at such a bad time. He was ready to resign, but an opportunity that he had been dreaming of for a long time fell on his head. His eyes were confused for a moment. Poplar Fruit thought of his daughter's cold body in the night wind last night, and his heart became firm again. Silently thinking of an excuse, he stood up, walked with steady steps, and knocked on the door of the manager's office. "Come in." Poplar Fruit pushed the door open, walked in, and gently closed the door. Du Ronghui was reading a book. When he saw Poplar Fruit come in, he smiled and said, "Poplar Fruit, come, sit." Poplar Fruit sat down in the seat in front of his desk. "Poplar Fruit, you did a good job yesterday. I'm not just talking about the things you did with Smith. You translated for the boss yesterday, and your translation was very good. The boss also praised you at the meeting today, saying that your translation was very good, almost as good as your peers." When Poplar Fruit sat down, Du Ronghui praised him fiercely. Poplar Fruit could only respond with a wry smile. "By the way, what do you want to see me for? Is it about going to Ying Jili?" Du Ronghui took a sip of tea and asked. Poplar Fruit shook his head, held back for a moment, and said, "Manager, I'm here to resign to you today." With a clang, Du Ronghui put down the big tea jar heavily and asked in a stern voice, "Resign? You mean resign? Did I hear you right?" Poplar Fruit nodded and said, "Yes, manager, I'm here to resign to you today. Here's the thing." Before he finished, his words were interrupted. Du Ronghui pushed the chair, stood up, and slammed his hands on the table. He looked down at Poplar Fruit, and his eyes seemed to be spitting fire. "Are there other companies poaching you? Poplar Fruit, let me ask you, has the company ever mistreated you?" Poplar Fruit shook his head and said, "No, the company has always been very good to me." Have I ever mistreated you?" Du Ronghui interrupted him and continued to ask. "No, manager, you have always taken good care of me." "Then why do you want to resign? How much did the other companies offer you?" Du Ronghui said bitterly. "Manager, you misunderstood. No other company said that they wanted to recruit me." Du Ronghui furrowed his brows and asked, "Then why? Was I too harsh when I scolded you yesterday? Or did someone do something to you in the company, and you couldn't stand it, so you resigned?" Poplar Fruit smiled bitterly and said, "No, manager, don't worry, give me a chance to explain. It's not what you think." Du Ronghui's questions were like a machine gun, and Poplar Fruit had no chance to speak. After listening to Poplar Fruit's words, he stopped. "Okay, I won't say. You say, you owe me a chance to explain." Poplar Fruit smiled bitterly and said, "Manager, you have always taken good care of me. If it weren't for the fact that I had no other choice, I wouldn't have thought of resigning. Do you remember the 2.5 days of leave I asked you for before the May Day holiday? Huh. It's like this. At that time, it wasn't because something happened at home, but because a woman gave birth to my child. Only then did I know that when I rushed over, she had a difficult labor and left a newborn baby for me. Du Ronghui rubbed his eyebrows and sat down. Poplar Fruit continued to say, because I had a child, I also knew the company's rules, but I didn't dare to say anything. At noon yesterday, I secretly ran out because of her. Poplar Fruit turned on his mobile phone, found a photo of Kiki, and handed it to Du Ronghui. This is my daughter, Kiki. Du Ronghui smiled reluctantly and said, she's very cute. Poplar Fruit explained to Du Ronghui, telling him about Kiki's crying at noon yesterday and the emergency situation at night. That's the case, Poplar Fruit said. Kiki really can't do without me. If anything happened to Kiki yesterday, I would really regret it for the rest of my life. So, I think there's no other way. I really can't take care of both sides, so I came to you to resign. Sigh. Du Ronghui was silent for a moment, then let out a long sigh. I understand how you feel as a parent. I am also a father. You have it much harder than me. At least I have my wife to help me take care of her. But I really feel that it's a pity. You are the most talented person I have ever seen in foreign trade. I have always wanted to train you well. But now it's useless to say anything. If you want to give up such a good opportunity next month, then you should have already made up your mind. Poplar Fruit stood up and bowed deeply to Du Ronghui. He choked a little and said, I'm really sorry. I failed to live up to your expectations. Du Ronghui waved his hand and said, forget it, let's not talk about that. Do you have any plans for the future? You just graduated a year ago, right? Less than a year ago. Then what are you going to do to support you and your father? I want to do some translation work at home. Although the income may not be that much, it should be enough to support the two of us. Well, your English level is high. It's good to develop in the translation industry. Du Ronghui nodded and took a sip of the tea. Since it's a family matter, I won't say anything more. I'll talk to the finance department later. They will give you a full salary for this month, but there will be no bonus. You know the company's rules. Poplar Fruit quickly said, Manager, it's already very kind of you to help me get a month's salary. Thank you so much. Well, you can go out and pack up. I'll take you to go through the formalities later. Poplar Fruit returned to his desk and packed up. After a while, Du Ronghui came out and announced the news of Poplar Fruit's resignation to the employees. Looking at the shocked eyes of the employees, Du Ronghui said, Don't think too much. It's mainly because Poplar Fruit's family matters. He took the initiative to resign. The company also wishes him a happy family. Poplar Fruit, if you have time in the future, come back to the company often. Our business department will always be your home. Du Ronghui went out first, giving Poplar Fruit time to say goodbye to the employees. Bao Chunfeng was the first to come over. She looked reluctant and said, Poplar Fruit, why did you resign? It was such a good opportunity. Wu Kaiyan and the others also expressed their concern for Poplar Fruit, who was the youngest in the business department. Tao Han was very perceptive and didn't come up to spoil the fun. His heart was filled with ecstasy, and he was very happy to hide in the back, secretly laughing, as if he was taking pleasure in other people's misfortune. However, he had already been ignored by everyone. Poplar Fruit was very moved and said to the surrounding colleagues, Brothers and sisters, don't worry too much. I resigned because I had some family matters and didn't have time to take care of both sides. I'm really grateful for your care in the past year. Although I'm not working in the company, we're still friends in the future. Poplar Fruit didn't say much about Kiki. There was no need to worry them. Wu Kaiyan said, Everyone here is your brother and sister. Young, if you need any help when you go back, just let me know. That's right. Everyone agreed. Poplar Fruit was moved and kept nodding. He hugged and said goodbye to them one by one. His eyes were a little red. He was able to improve so much in the first year after graduating from university. It was definitely not without the care of these colleagues. Poplar Fruit was really reluctant to say goodbye to such a warm group. But all good things must come to an end. Poplar Fruit eventually had to leave. Holding the salary that Du Ronghui helped him to get for this month, the memories he had in the company, and the blessings of the business department, Poplar Fruit waved goodbye to the teary-eyed Lu Jingyi and walked out of the company with his head held high. Poplar Fruit knew that in another place in this beautiful city, there was a girl waiting for his return. Chapter 16. Poplar Fruit, remember to bring your daughter for a checkup on Saturday. At the entrance of the hospital, head nurse Jiang sent him off with a smile. Okay, Auntie Jiang. You can go back. You don't have to send me off. Poplar Fruit smiled as he hugged Kiki. After waving goodbye to head nurse Jiang, Poplar Fruit hailed a taxi and carried his daughter home. Although he resigned this morning, Poplar Fruit was in a very good mood. He didn't have to worry about going to work, and he could accompany his daughter. What could make him happier than this? Pushing open the door, Poplar Fruit let Kiki lie in the baby stroller in the living room. He hummed a song as he took care of disinfecting the milk bottles and brewing milk for Kiki. As Poplar Fruit busied himself, he took the time to turn around and look at Kiki. In the end, he discovered that Kiki's round eyes were also looking at her father. She looked like she was concentrating on something, and he didn't know what she was thinking about. Kiki noticed her father turning around. Her little eyes froze for a moment, and then she raised her head to look at her father. Suddenly, the little angel opened her little mouth and giggled. He didn't know why she was so happy. Her eyes suddenly turned into the clear crescent moon spring of Dunhuang, and ripples appeared on her jade-like clear waves. Seeing this, Poplar Fruit turned his head from time to time while brewing the milk. Every time he turned his head, he gave Kiki a big surprise. Every time he turned his head, he made her laugh happily. Her beautiful bell-like laughter echoed in the small living room, and the sound lingered. Poplar Fruit felt like his heart was drunk. This was probably the happiest thing in the world. After the milk was ready, Poplar Fruit carried Kiki up. Seeing her greedily drinking the milk, he thought to himself, Kiki must be starving. Who said otherwise? When she was in the hospital's incubator, she relied on the glucose injection at the beginning to maintain her strength. Poplar Fruit gently stroked Kiki's soft and sparse light yellow hair. His heart was filled with endless pity, but his mouth muttered, Kiki, you're Daddy's little angel. Why are you still a little girl? After Kiki drank her fill of milk, Poplar Fruit burped her, and after 2 rounds, she fell into a deep sleep. Poplar Fruit made some noodles for himself, and then he threw himself onto the big bed and fell asleep. He didn't sleep a wink last night. If it wasn't for the fact that he had a lot of energy, Poplar Fruit, he wouldn't have been able to hold on. When he woke up, the sky was already dark. Poplar Fruit was busy bathing and massaging Kiki. After taking care of her, he made noodles for himself. Slurp, slurp, slurp. The noodles made by Poplar Fruit were actually quite delicious, but it didn't have as much meat as usual. Poplar Fruit was starting to miss fish and meat. But right now, he was embarrassingly short of money. Although he still had about 20,000 yuan in savings, who knew when he would have another income? Now, Poplar Fruit had to be careful with his spending. Kiki ate and used the best things, which cost a lot. He wanted to save as much as he could. He would eat simple food on weekdays, and buy some good food on weekends. Poplar Fruit swallowed the noodles in his mouth, smacked his lips, and turned to look at his daughter. He pretended to be serious and said, Kiki, Daddy has to eat and drink rice for you. You have to be good, and don't bring Daddy any trouble, okay? Kiki didn't understand what he was saying. She sat in the baby stroller, and when she saw her father suddenly turn to look at her, she thought that her father was playing the game from the afternoon with her again, and she smiled happily. Poplar Fruit looked at the little angel's innocent smile, and muttered, You really are heartless. Then he couldn't help but laugh. After dinner, Kiki drank her milk, and her father carried her back to the small bed to sleep. Poplar Fruit bathed and washed their clothes. Kiki's clothes had to be hand-washed, so he didn't come out of the bathroom until almost 9 o'clock. Poplar Fruit wiped the water off his hands, and turned on the computer. Poplar Fruit looked at Xinda Translation Company on Chengdu. Looking at the introduction of Xinda Translation Company and the netizens' comments, Poplar Fruit realized that this company was a strange one in the translation industry. Xinda Translation Company was established in 1980, and it was one of the earliest translation companies in Huanan. Xinda started out as an interpreter, and now it could be said to be the giant of the giants in Huanan. It occupied half of the interpreting market, and it was said that many interpreting professors in universities were listed with Xinda Translation Company. Interpreting was much more profitable than writing, and Poplar Fruit knew this. He had heard from a teacher before that English interpretation generally cost 600 to 700 renminbi a day. Of course, this was referring to professionals, and the highest level simultaneous interpretation cost thousands of RMB, and this was the hourly wage. However, interpreting was not very realistic for Poplar Fruit. Although it was more profitable, it was no different from going to work, and he had to run around outside. Poplar Fruit mainly focused on writing. Translation was a field that Xinda Translation Company opened up after the millennium. Previously, they were called a strange one because they did not recruit a large number of formal employees like other translation companies. In order to open up the market, they adopted a business model that was somewhat similar to the mercenary unions in novels. Simply put, Xinda Translation Company built a platform, and translators were like mercenaries. They registered their mercenary status on the platform. Then, if other companies had translation needs, they could issue missions through Xinda Translation Company, and translators could choose the missions that were suitable for them. If they passed Xinda Translation Company's review, the bounty of the mission would be credited to their card. Of course, the price of the bounty still had to be set according to Xinda Translation Company's standards, and Xinda Translation Company would also give a certain percentage of the mercenaries under their command. Xinda Company relied on its connections in the interpretation market to attract a group of high-quality customer resources. As a result, the missions it issued were also very rewarding. This also attracted many translators to work part-time in Xinda Company. The relationship between Xinda Translation Company and translators was very simple. It was not like other companies that had performance requirements. Translators would accept missions when they had time, and they could ignore the company if they did not have time. Therefore, many registered translators came from other translation companies. They came for the generous rewards. As long as they were not discovered by their own boss, they could still make a lot of money. In this way, Xinda Translation Company formed a good reputation, and gradually achieved a balance between supply and demand. Every day, many companies and individuals would post translation requirements on the platform, and many translators would receive translation work. After more than 10 years of operation, Xinda Translation Company had a faint trend of becoming a giant in the translation market. The other translation companies were also helpless. They knew that although it was forbidden, their employees might still work for others, but they couldn't find any evidence to prove it. Yonghua also found out that Xinda Corporation's commission for the translators was different. It categorized the registered translators into different categories: trainee translators, bronze translators, silver translators, and gold translators. The higher the level of the translator, the lower the commission, which was 40%, 30%, 20%, 10%, and 5% respectively. For example, if a trainee translator completed a mission with a price of 100 yuan, he would only get 60 yuan. If it was a gold translator, he would get 95 yuan. The difference was huge. Of course, Xinda Translation Company's missions were also divided into different levels. Translators could not apply for higher-level missions, and could not compete with lower-level translators for money. The trainee translators' missions were all small missions, such as personal resume translation. The higher the level, the more difficult the missions would be. However, the income from each mission would also be higher. From trainee translator to translator, as long as the number of missions passed and the passing rate reached a certain value, they could be promoted. Xinda Translation Company's design was mainly to prevent translators from maliciously accepting missions and not completing them, which would damage the company's reputation. Everyone could take on the task of a trainee interpreter, but as long as someone accepted the task of an interpreter, no one else would be able to see it for a period of time. If a translator wanted to be promoted, they would have to pass a certain level of assessment. It was said that they had to translate an article given by the review team, and only after passing the assessment could they be promoted. Of course, they were not afraid of the translator cheating. If the translator's performance in the next 2 missions did not meet the requirements of the level, then this account would be blacklisted. The higher the level of a bronze translator, the harder it was to be promoted, but it was also more profitable. Not to mention the company's commission, a silver translator would get 200 yuan per 1,000 words, and a gold translator would get 300 yuan per 1,000 words. This was not something an ordinary translator could compete with. Moreover, although a gold translator would get 300 yuan per 1,000 words, this was only the lowest price. Some urgent missions or generous companies would offer far more than $300. Poplar Fruit realized that Xinda Translation Company's platform was actually a huge pyramid. At the top of the pyramid were some very capable translators. These were the foundation of Xinda Translation Company. They relied on these translators to attract a large number of high-quality customers and gain a reputation in the industry. Then, there were a large number of newbies or translation enthusiasts at the bottom. They could also digest the fragmented translation market that the senior translators looked down on. Although Xinda Translation Company could not make money from the senior translators, they could make a lot of money from the translators at the bottom of the pyramid. Although Xinda Translation Company's commission was a little high and they did not make much money, it was simple and efficient. Moreover, they could also hone their skills. Therefore, students in universities and those who knew foreign languages and had a lot of free time were still scrambling for the job. However, Poplar Fruit was not willing to spend time on trainee translators and translators. He did not even care about bronze translators. After looking at the examples of silver and gold translators, Poplar Fruit felt that his level should not be too far away from the silver translators. Poplar Fruit was not going to apply to become a mercenary of Xinda Translation Company right away. As the saying goes, sharpening the axe will not delay the work of cutting firewood. Poplar Fruit wanted to prepare himself first. Since he could touch the edge of the silver translators through amateur practice, why not work hard and strive to sit on the throne of the gold translators? As a translator, Poplar Fruit wanted to be the best translator. Poplar Fruit believed that with his smart brain, he could definitely sit on the top of the pyramid. Poplar Fruit turned off the computer and rummaged through the cabinets. He found the translation books that he had not used for a long time under his bed. Some were textbooks from university, some were tutorials from famous translators that he had bought on a whim. After graduation, Poplar Fruit could not bear to throw them away and stuff them under his bed. He did not expect them to come in handy now. After wiping the dust off the books, he sat in front of the desk. In order not to disturb Kiki's rest, Poplar Fruit used the dim yellow light from the desk lamp to read the thick theory book in his hands. His eyes were focused and serious, as if he had returned to his student days. Outside the window, the neon lights painted the night sky. The swaying leaves, summer cicadas, and the sound of cars were all blocked by the thick brick wall. In the room, there was only the sound of 2 people breathing at the same frequency and the soft sound of pages flipping. This night was exceptionally quiet and peaceful. Chapter 17. Early in the morning, Poplar Fruit woke up at 5 as usual. At this time, the sky was just beginning to brighten. Kiki was lying in a protected crib, sleeping. Poplar Fruit left her at home, so it didn't matter if he left for a while. Today's weather was good. The small park was filled with insects and birds, green willows and red flowers, and the air was fresh. Poplar Fruit jogged around the small park a few times, then found a quiet corner and started to practice his fist moves. Poplar Fruit's fist moves were not like the Tai Chi fist on the market, which was divided into 24 or 42 forms. Please don't take it seriously. These fist moves were complicated because there were many moves added for performance. In fact, they were all evolved from Poplar Fruit's 13 forms of fist moves. Poplar Fruit's 13 forms. Each form was unique and faintly related to the other 12 forms. There were thousands of changes, and it all depended on the user's intention. Poplar Fruit naturally couldn't do this. Whether it was his internal strength or consciousness, he didn't meet the minimum requirement to be able to change moves at will. Therefore, Poplar Fruit still obediently practiced the 13 forms back and forth more than 10 times from beginning to end. After practicing the fist moves, Poplar Fruit started to practice slowly. Tai Chi fist emphasized the body's agility, and the movements were coherent and rhythmic. The natural law was also about the power to beat the powerless, and the slow hand gave way to the fast hand. However, Poplar Fruit did the opposite. He wanted to practice his fist moves at a speed slower than a tortoise's. This was actually a requirement of the martial arts. It was easy to be fast, but knowing how to be slow was the best way to be fast. It wasn't like using 4 tails to move 1,000 caddies, where the weak could borrow strength to fight strength. The martial arts also didn't completely abandon fast movements and rely on slow movements to deal with fast movements. Instead, it hoped that the martial artist could be fast and slow at will. Poplar Fruit's chi sank into his dantian. His legs were like the roots of an old tree, firmly rooted to the ground. His crotch was like a horse, his waist was relaxed and his back was straight. His right arm was empty as he slowly stretched out his left palm. His every movement was like a lion on the grassland slowly approaching its prey. He restrained his aura and moved slowly, afraid that if his movements were too big, he would touch the withered grass and scare away his prey. Poplar Fruit cultivated slowly while circulating his internal energy. It was as if he was meditating. Although it felt more sluggish, the effect was remarkable. After one move, fine beads of sweat appeared on Poplar Fruit's forehead. It was even more tiring than all the previous exercises combined. The elderly people in the nearby communities also got up one after another. The small park was where they gathered for their morning exercises. Some of them practiced boxing and swordsmanship like Poplar Fruit, while others danced in the square with music on. It was very lively. However, Poplar Fruit's mind was immersed in his every move and was not disturbed. However, a few old men glanced at Poplar Fruit's movements for a long time, but they could not figure out anything. After all, Poplar Fruit could practice for a few minutes with one move. Soon, they lost their patience and left one after another. After practicing the 13 moves at a slow pace, Poplar Fruit's head was steaming with water vapor. His whole body was drenched as if he had just been fished out of the water, but he was more energetic. After finishing his practice, Poplar Fruit bought breakfast at the market and went home. When he got home, Kiki was still asleep. Poplar Fruit washed up and changed his clothes. He held a dictionary and read it out loud. Other people memorized words with specific vocabulary books. At most, there were a few thousand words. However, Poplar Fruit directly took a big book like Oxford Advanced and memorized it from A to back. Who asked him to have such an abnormal memory? As Poplar Fruit read aloud, Kiki also opened her eyes. She was lying on the small bed with her mouth slightly open. Her small hands were waving and clapping together. Was she clapping for her father's diligence? After washing Kiki's face and feeding her, Poplar Fruit continued reading until 11 o'clock in the afternoon. After a few hours, Poplar Fruit had already eaten a small stack of the dictionary. He estimated that he would be able to memorize all 180,000 words in the dictionary in less than a month. After cooking some porridge, Poplar Fruit leisurely went online to read the news. The internet was filled with the news about the terrorist Osamu bin Laden dragged the news out of a small house. Poplar Fruit smiled and sighed. One is Osamu, the other is Osamu. They are both born from the same root. Why are they so anxious to kill each other? The terrorist incident in 2001 happened in the United States. It had nothing to do with Poplar Fruit. The incident that happened now also had nothing to do with Poplar Fruit. Osamu had killed Osamu. It could only be said that he had gotten rid of his former nemesis. It made him feel proud. The poll numbers were better, but there was no difference between Poplar Fruit and Kiki, so Poplar Fruit did not pay attention to it. Before closing the browser, Poplar Fruit went to the Yin website with great interest and translated a related report from foreign media. This could be considered as benefiting the people in the country who were eager to know what had happened. Of course, his translation was of a higher standard and was later reposted by major portals on the internet. However, this had nothing to do with Poplar Fruit. After Poplar Fruit clicked confirm, he calculated the time and translated more than 1,000 words in 1.5 hours. This speed was not bad. If he really became a gold medal translator, he could earn 300 yuan in 2 hours. That would be more than 1,000 a day. In a month, he could almost reach the salary of his former salesman. Poplar Fruit was secretly happy. In the evening, when Poplar Fruit was reading the grammar book, he heard a knock on the door. He opened the door and saw that it was Song Jiwen. "Yo, it's rare to see you here. Why are you here? Isn't it the weekend today?" Poplar Fruit smiled and handed him a pair of slippers. Song Jiwen stuffed the big and small bags into Poplar Fruit's hands and said while changing his shoes, "My mother asked me to come here. Do you think I want to come here at night instead of sleeping at home?" Poplar Fruit put the bags on the coffee table and opened one of them. It was baby clothes. He looked at the other bags. They were all baby products: 2 cans of milk powder, a few sets of clothes, a bunch of diapers, and a baby carrier. These were all bought by Song Jiwen's mother, Poplar Fruit's godmother. Poplar Fruit felt a little sour in his nose. Song Jiwen changed his shoes, patted Poplar Fruit's shoulder and said, "How is it? My mother is good to you, right? Why don't you thank me? When she heard that you had a baby, she went shopping and bought so many good things for your daughter. I've never seen her treat me so well. They're all branded goods. Teske teske." Poplar Fruit's brewing emotions were suddenly smacked away by Song Jiwen. He said angrily, "That's my godmother taking care of me. Why should I thank you?" Song Jiwen didn't argue with him. He smiled and took an apple from the table, ran to the sink to wash it, and then sat on the sofa and nibbled on it. "Lao Gua, how are you this week?" Poplar Fruit said, "Not bad, but I quit my job." "Quit?" Song Jiwen suddenly jumped off the sofa. "Why did you quit? Aren't you doing well?" "Because I can't take care of Kiki if I go to work." Poplar Fruit was very calm. He told Song Jiwen about Kiki's hospitalization the night before. "Sigh." Song Jiwen sighed. "I knew that your daughter would suffer a lot. Your salary last month was 20,000 yuan. Even I envy you. In the end, you quit just like that." Poplar Fruit comforted him and said, "It's okay. There's more than one way to go in life." "Then what do you plan to do in the future?" "I did some research yesterday. Actually, being a translator is quite profitable, and I can do it at home. I plan to give it a try." Song Jiwen looked at him doubtfully. "Can you be a translator?" In Song Jiwen's impression, Poplar Fruit's English level was about the same as his. He could watch American dramas, but he couldn't really do it seriously. However, this was the situation before graduation. He didn't know that Poplar Fruit's IQ was already at the level of a monster. Poplar Fruit's English level had left him in the dust a long time ago. "Well, Mosquito, you underestimate me." Poplar Fruit laughed. He opened the translated article on the computer and showed it to him. "Look, what do you think of this article?" Song Jiwen took a look, shook his head and said, "I haven't read English for almost a year. I can't understand the original text, but I think the Chinese version is very good. It feels like I'm reading a Chinese article." After all, he also graduated from an English major, so he still had the ability to appreciate. Song Jiwen looked at Poplar Fruit doubtfully and asked, "You translated this?" Seeing that Poplar Fruit nodded, Song Jiwen laughed and said, "Not bad. After working in the foreign trade industry for a year, you've become so good. It feels like I've been fattening in the unit for a year." Poplar Fruit didn't say that his improvement wasn't because of the foreign trade industry. He just smiled and didn't reveal the secret of his intelligence. Song Jiwen sat back and took a bite of the apple. Then he said to Poplar Fruit, "You know what my dad does, right?" "I know. He's the leader of the Civil Affairs Bureau." Poplar Fruit looked at Song Jiwen doubtfully. What was he trying to say? Hee, looks like you haven't considered the issue of your daughter's household registration." "That's right." Poplar Fruit remembered that he had to register Kiki's household registration. Otherwise, she would be an unregistered resident. Poplar Fruit's household registration had been moved to Yongcheng. If he didn't register Kiki's household registration, things like medical insurance and kindergarten would be very troublesome in the future. But he wasn't married yet. How could he register his daughter's household registration? You have a way? Poplar Fruit asked. I don't have a way, but my dad has a way. He said that he has already spoken to his friends in the Public Security Bureau. You should hurry up and do a paternity test for Chi-Chi. Then, bring the proof, your household register, and your ID card over, and they can help you with it. Song Ji-wen threw the apple core into the bin and clapped his hands. This will help you avoid the fine for having a child out of wedlock. How is it? Is it enough? You want a DNA test? Poplar Fruit was stunned. Can't I get a birth certificate? A DNA test sounded weird. It was as if he was suspecting that she wasn't his daughter. I don't think so. You can do a DNA test. Anyway, you can confirm if Kiki is your biological daughter. Poplar Fruit stared at him and said, What do you mean by biological? She's my biological daughter. Didn't you see her eyes and nose? They look exactly like mine. Song Ji-wen raised his hands in surrender and said, Okay. I said the wrong thing. She's your daughter. Anyway, my mission is to pass a message to you. Hurry up and do the DNA test. Then, my dad can register your daughter's household registration. Well, I know. Help me thank my godfather. After the DNA test is done, I'll take Kiki to the elders to have a look, Poplar Fruit said. Okay, my mission is done. I should go. Song Ji-wen stood up and walked to the door. You don't have to walk me out. I'll just go out and take a taxi. Poplar Fruit walked him to the door and watched his figure disappear around the corner of the stairs. Only then did he close the door and go back. Tidying up the gifts on the table, Poplar Fruit felt that he was really lucky. He had been helped by a lot of relatives and friends along the way. As a matter of fact, not only did Godfather and Godmother buy so many good things for him, they also solved the troublesome problem of registering Chi-Chi's household registration so easily. Chapter 18. May 7th, Saturday. Today was the day of Kiki's physical examination, as scheduled with head nurse Jiang. Poplar Fruit had already helped Kiki put on a dry diaper and changed her into beautiful clothes. He also put on a small hat that his godmother had bought for her. The hat was in the shape of a panda, with white fluffy fur and 2 small black ears. It was very cute. Because they were going out for a long trip today, Poplar Fruit didn't use a baby stroller. Instead, he wore a gray baby carrier. This carrier was like a seat for Kiki on Poplar Fruit's chest. Chi-Chi wore a small hat and sat proudly with her back leaning against her father's broad chest. The comfortable straps wrapped around her body so that she wouldn't fall off. Her arms and legs were stretched out, and it wasn't as restrictive as being wrapped in a blanket. It was the first time that Kiki could see the world so freely. She was very happy. She danced around and looked up at her father from time to time, as if she wanted to tell him something interesting. Because leaning against her father's warm chest, Kiki should feel very safe. When Poplar Fruit went out, he carried a handbag with his left hand. It was filled with some of Kiki's daily necessities. It was always better to be prepared. When they got on the subway, the pedestrians on the subway cast friendly glances at the young father. Poplar Fruit also smiled and nodded at them. A few girls dressed like students wanted to stand up and give their seats to Poplar Fruit. Poplar Fruit quickly waved his hand and said, Thank you, but it's okay. I'll stand. She has her own special seat. The girls looked at Kiki, who was sitting in the carrier and looking around, and they all secretly laughed. Chi-Chi was very courageous. Even in an environment where there were so many strangers, she was still able to look at other people without the slightest hint of fear. Poplar Fruit stood in a more spacious area with one hand holding her handbag and the other in front of her to prevent others from accidentally touching Kiki. A woman in her 30s who looked like a housewife smiled at Kiki and said to Poplar Fruit, How many months have you been pregnant? A boy or a girl? It was hard to tell the gender of a child less than a month old, and Kiki's clothes today were more neutral. She's not even a month old yet, Poplar Fruit said with a smile. She's a daughter. She's so pretty. Poplar Fruit smiled happily even though he knew that the other party's compliment was far greater than his actual evaluation. When they arrived at the hospital, Poplar Fruit easily found Head Nurse Jiang. When Head Nurse Jiang saw him, she smiled and said, "Little Yang, you look very handsome today. You are becoming more and more like a father." Poplar Fruit chuckled. The person who examined Kiki was a pediatrician. Poplar Fruit stood outside and watched her with a yellow headlamp. She used a cotton swab to check Kiki's ears and mouth. Her movements were very gentle, so he felt relieved. He turned to Head Nurse Jiang and said, "Auntie Jiang, I came here today because I want to do a paternity test here." When she heard this, Head Nurse Jiang's face immediately darkened. She stared into Poplar Fruit's eyes and said with a frown, "What's wrong, little Yang? What are you thinking about again? Don't tell me you don't want to take responsibility again?" Poplar Fruit quickly waved his hands and said, "Auntie Jiang, you misunderstood. I want to do a paternity test mainly to register Kiki." He told Head Nurse Jiang about his godfather's promise to help. Head Nurse Jiang looked into Poplar Fruit's eyes and felt that he wasn't lying. Her expression softened. She said, "If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten that your situation is special. I thought that a birth certificate would be enough. You are unmarried, so if you want to register your daughter, you do need to do a paternity test." Yes. I looked it up on the internet. Our hospital can do paternity tests, so I decided to come here today and do it since I don't have to go to other places. Poplar Fruit scratched his head. Head Nurse Jiang smiled and said, "You must have done a personal paternity test, right?" Poplar Fruit had a puzzled look on his face. How could a paternity test be different? Head Nurse Jiang saw that he didn't understand, so she patiently explained, "Paternity tests can be divided into personal paternity tests and judicial paternity tests. Usually, people who come here to confirm their relationship are personal paternity tests. Yours is classified as a judicial paternity test, and it is usually used as evidence in court. A judicial paternity test can only be done at an institution with the qualifications for judicial paternity tests." Poplar Fruit was dumbfounded. He didn't think of this. "But you are very lucky." Head Nurse Jiang put her hands in the pockets of her white coat and said with a smile, "Our hospital has the qualifications. I will take you there later." "Okay, thank you, Auntie Jiang." Poplar Fruit was relieved that he didn't have to make another trip. "Did you bring all your documents? In addition to your ID card, you also need your birth certificate and your household register," Head Nurse Jiang asked. "Yes, I brought them." Poplar Fruit came out fully prepared today. His handbag was filled with almost all the documents he could possibly use. He even brought his employee ID from when he worked at the company. After the physical examination, Kiki was very healthy. Everything was normal. Poplar Fruit carried her and followed Head Nurse Jiang to the paternity test center. "Auntie Jiang, how long will it take for the paternity test to come out?" Poplar Fruit asked on the way. "Generally speaking, it takes 7 working days." "Are you in a hurry?" Head Nurse Jiang said. "No, it's just that my godfather already talked to his friends. I just want to get it done quickly so I can rest assured." Head Nurse Jiang smiled and said, "That's not a problem. The paternity test center just needs to take some time to go through the process. In fact, it's not that troublesome at all. I will talk to them and simplify the process. You can come over next Monday to get the results." Poplar Fruit was overjoyed and said happily, "Thank you so much." After the procedures and photos were taken, Poplar Fruit waited in front of the sampling room. He lowered his head and said to his daughter, "Kiki, it's just a light injection and a little blood. Dad is here, don't be afraid." Kiki ignored him and looked around as if it had nothing to do with her. "Who told you to draw blood?" The nurse in the sampling room walked out and happened to hear Poplar Fruit's words. She laughed and said, "Ah, isn't it like this on TV? How do you test DNA without drawing blood?" Poplar Fruit was confused. How many years ago was that? The nurse smiled and said, "Now that technology has developed, there's no need for such troublesome methods. Don't forget, it's not only human blood that contains DNA. It turned out that DNA sampling was now replaced by oral sampling. The oral sampling was exactly the same as blood sampling. In this case, the painless and safe oral sampling was naturally the first choice. It turned out that he was thinking too much. But it was good that his daughter didn't have to endure the pain of being pricked by a sharp needle. Poplar Fruit was relieved. Entering the sampling room, the nurse handed a glass of water to Poplar Fruit, pointed to the basin, and said, "Rinse your mouth." Poplar Fruit held the water in his mouth and let the water roll in his mouth twice. Then, he lowered his head and spat it out into the basin. The nurse took a cotton swab and walked in front of Poplar Fruit. She motioned for Poplar Fruit to sit down and open his mouth. She put the cotton swab into Poplar Fruit's mouth and gently scraped his inner cheeks a few times. Then, she took it out and put it in an envelope. Then, she took out another cotton swab and continued to scrape. She repeated this 5 times. Poplar Fruit couldn't help but swallow a big mouthful of saliva. Kiki was a bit more troublesome. At first, Kiki didn't open her mouth no matter what. Poplar Fruit tried everything, including coaxing and teasing, but she didn't open her mouth. In the end, when Poplar Fruit was about to give up, Kiki opened her mouth and laughed. The nurse, who was watching from the side, didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She quickly took the opportunity to take a sample. Poplar Fruit gently pinched Kiki's little face and said in a bad mood, "You only know how to torture your father. You're too bad." Overall, everything went smoothly today. On the way back, Kiki fell asleep. Poplar Fruit put her into the sling, facing him. The sling also folded back and wrapped Kiki's head. Afraid that she would be exposed to the wind while sleeping, Poplar Fruit also put an extra red jacket on her. On the way back, Poplar Fruit didn't rush home when he passed by the market on the subway. At this time, the sky was gloomy. Many gray clouds floated in from all directions, densely crowding together. Even the noon sun was covered by them. The air was stuffy and hot. A yellow dog barked uneasily on the road. The atmosphere was very oppressive, and it looked like it was going to rain. There was almost no food at home. Poplar Fruit took advantage of the fact that it wasn't raining yet. He walked around and bought some vegetables and a small bag of rice. As soon as he walked out of the market, his phone rang. The melodious and bright melody of Sky City floated out of his pocket, which was a bit out of place with the gloomy atmosphere. Poplar Fruit passed the bags in his right hand to his left hand. He took out his phone and saw that it was his girlfriend, Lu Yunran. After hesitating for a moment, Poplar Fruit picked up the phone. "Xiao Ran. Hee, Guagua, guess where I am?" Lu Yunran's sweet voice came from the phone. Poplar Fruit had a bad feeling in his heart. He pretended to be calm and asked, "Where are you?" "I guess," Lu Yunran said coquettishly. Lu Yunran and he often played this kind of guess game. Usually, if someone said guess, they would appear in front of the other person very quickly. The guess, that used to be very romantic, now sounded so scary in Poplar Fruit's ears. "You're in Buddha City?" Poplar Fruit didn't give up and asked. "Haha, Guagua, you're so stupid." Lu Yunran laughed without any scruples. Poplar Fruit could imagine her laughing without her usual ladylike appearance. However, Poplar Fruit couldn't laugh because Lu Yunran's next sentence made it clear, "Come out and open the door, I'm already at your door." After graduation, Lu Yunran was very busy with work. Usually, Poplar Fruit would go to Buddha City to accompany her. She didn't have time to look for Poplar Fruit, so Poplar Fruit didn't give her the key. But today, she came without saying a word. Poplar Fruit looked at Kiki, who was sleeping soundly in his arms, and panicked. How to explain to Xiao Ran? What to do? Poplar Fruit felt like his head was about to explode in this stuffy atmosphere. After a moment of silence, Poplar Fruit took a deep breath. No matter what, if he stuck out his head, he would still be stabbed. If he couldn't avoid it, he would have to face it in the end. Poplar Fruit didn't want his voice to tremble so much. He said slowly, word by word, "Xiao Ran, wait for me at the door. I'm already at the entrance of the neighborhood. I'll be there soon." After putting down the phone, Poplar Fruit looked up at the sky. Dark clouds covered the city and sand flew everywhere. A storm was coming. Chapter 19. If a person had something on his mind and couldn't wait to get to a place, a target that was very close to him would still feel very far away. However, if a person subconsciously resisted going to that place, it would only take a blink of an eye to reach a destination that was very far away. It was only a few hundred meters from the entrance of the residential area to the door of the rental house. Poplar Fruit really wanted to walk down this path forever and never reach the end. However, things did not go as he wished. In just a few minutes, he reached the last corner of the stairs. Slowly turning around, a face without makeup that could make 100 flowers blush came into view. In the last few steps, Poplar Fruit saw Lu Yunran's expression change from joy to shock, and then to pale. Poplar Fruit had a hunch in his heart, but it was as if someone had drilled into his heart and then ruthlessly scratched it. The heartache did not lessen at all. Lu Yunran was really busy with work. After she graduated from university, she entered a foreign company. Although the salary was generous, she worked overtime every day. Not only did she have to wake up early and work late, but she also had to work on her own vacation time. However, wasn't this the model of foreign companies? They used a salary that was several times higher to attract outstanding graduates from China, and then desperately squeeze their value, helping them earn more profits from China. Girls who entered foreign companies aged quickly. This was not a rumor. They worked for more than 10 hours a day, and worked for more than 28 days a month. Although cosmetics could support their noble and glamorous appearance at work, how could they get rid of the physical and mental exhaustion? Not everyone could reach the management level of a foreign company, and this was even more so for women. Only a small group of women continued to work at the management level. Most of the white-collar women were approaching the age of marriage and children. They did not need to be fired by the company, as they could not persevere on their own. On the other hand, foreign companies continued to select outstanding graduates from the huge graduate market every year to fill the gap left by their departure, and then continue to squander the next batch of precious youth. After working for a year, Lu Yunran felt that she could not take it anymore. She persevered because her boyfriend, Poplar Fruit, would come over to accompany her during his holidays. Poplar Fruit's thoughtfulness often made her forget about her physical exhaustion after a week. Although her family had been persuading her to go back, saying that a woman would eventually get married. Her family could help her find a job. She didn't want to make a lot of money, but it was important for stability and not rushing around. Lu Yunran did not agree. She wanted to earn money for a few more years before coming to Yongcheng to seek refuge with Poplar Fruit. The two of them would buy a house in Yongcheng and get married. After that, she found a job that wasn't too stressful. She worked hard with Poplar Fruit to pay off her mortgage, pay for her car, and give birth to a baby. Just like that, she lived a peaceful and warm life. Lu Yunran was such a traditional but strong girl. Her dream was simple, and that was to pursue her own happiness. After graduating from university, her family had tried to get her to go on blind dates. The other party was the son of a rich family. If she married him, she would be able to live in a villa and drive a luxury car. But Lu Yunran did not agree. She did not even give him a chance to meet. These were all things that Poplar Fruit did not know. Lu Yunran used to think that she was the luckiest girl in the world. Poplar Fruit was truly good to her from the bottom of his heart. Although he was not as rich as that rich second-generation heir, Lu Yunran felt that as long as the two of them worked hard together, they would have everything in the future. So Lu Yunran foolishly followed Poplar Fruit wholeheartedly. She did not let Poplar Fruit play third base because she was reserved. She always fantasized about leaving everything good for the end. But after the 1st of May, Lu Yunran felt that something was wrong. On the 1st of May, Poplar Fruit did not come to Fu City to accompany her like before. He also did not fall asleep with sweet phone calls like usual. After the 1st of May, Poplar Fruit did not speak much on the phone. Sometimes, he did not even call. Lu Yunran had some close friends who used to talk to her about relationship problems. When their boyfriends had a change of heart, they would find out all kinds of clues from the phone calls they made every day. Lu Yunran did not dare to think about it. She would rather believe in her understanding of Poplar Fruit. She knew that Poplar Fruit was a person who was sincere and honest when it came to relationships. She did not believe that Poplar Fruit would cheat on her. But the uneasiness in her heart forced her to not sleep well for a few days. Finally, on the weekend, Lu Yunran did not work overtime. She took the earliest bus and the busiest subway. She crossed the crowded road and arrived in front of Poplar Fruit's door. But it seemed that she was really wrong. She saw Poplar Fruit acting like a stay-at-home dad. She saw the baby lying in Poplar Fruit's arms. She saw the hesitation and helplessness on Poplar Fruit's face. The one who should be at a loss was actually her. When Poplar Fruit turned to face her, the self-comforting magic mirror in Lu Yunran's heart shattered into pieces. Along with it, her faith in love and her unquestioning love for Poplar Fruit shattered. A third party was involved in a melodramatic plot like this, which only appeared in TV dramas. Now, it had happened to her. Lu Yunran did not dare to believe it, but all the signs in front of her confirmed her guess. At that moment, Lu Yunran's heart felt as if it had been hit by the big hammer in the temple. Her heart felt very painful, her head roared, and she felt so uncomfortable that she could not breathe. The blood on her face faded, revealing the pale face that Poplar Fruit saw. Xiao Ran. Poplar Fruit spat out these two words with difficulty. Lu Yunran did not respond. Poplar Fruit saw this and felt a sharp pain in his heart. He walked forward and took her hand. Let's go in first. Lu Yunran was in a daze. Like a puppet, she let Poplar Fruit lead her through the door. Suddenly, she sobered up. 2 lines of clear tears flowed from her eyes. She wiped them away and said in a panic, "I'm sorry. I have to go." She did not know what she was saying. She just wanted to escape from this place. Poplar Fruit held her back, but she kept trying to break free. Poplar Fruit did not allow it. He said, "Xiaoran, listen to me. Listen to me." Lu Yunran could not break free. Her tears flowed. She turned her head away, unwilling to meet Poplar Fruit's eyes. She choked out, "Go on." Poplar Fruit forcefully pulled her away from the door. Then, he made her sit down on the sofa. The tears in his eyes showed signs of being unable to be suppressed. Poplar Fruit told her in detail about the drunken mistake during the graduation trip. He also told her everything that had happened in the past few days when Wu Yu had found him before the Labor Day holiday but had only left him with a child. Lu Yunran listened quietly. She did not reply, but her tears flowed like a broken dam. They did not stop. Poplar Fruit felt terrible watching himself. As he spoke, he stuffed a tissue into Lu Yunran's hand. Lu Yunran did not want it. She hugged the tissue box in her arms. Throughout the entire process, Lu Yunran did not look at him directly. After listening, Lu Yunran did not feel much better. She was still crying. She clenched her teeth. Her expression under her hair was still struggling and painful. Strictly speaking, Poplar Fruit's behavior was not considered cheating. There was also no third party between them. Because everything happened in a state of unconscious and almost disappeared in a situation where they did not know. However, Kiki was the biggest variable during this period. She would also become the biggest obstacle in the relationship between Poplar Fruit and Lu Yunran, or the biggest psychological obstacle. In fact, it was not difficult to understand why Lu Yunran was so sad now. If it were a man, if his fiancée came back with a child the night before the wedding and said that she had given birth to the child with another man in a daze, how many men could bear the fact that they had been cuckolded, even if they knew that their fiancée would not betray them emotionally? Lu Yunran was the same. Poplar Fruit was worried that her flailing arms would accidentally hurt Kiki, so he only held her arms down. "The rain is too heavy. Wait for it to let up, and I'll send you back, okay?" Poplar Fruit coaxed earnestly. "Let go, Poplar Fruit. I'm telling you, if you don't let go, we'll break up right now." Lu Yunran screamed. When Poplar Fruit heard this, he subconsciously loosened his grip. Lu Yunran immediately pushed Poplar Fruit away, opened the door, and ran out. Poplar Fruit knew that if he let Lu Yunran leave today, he would not have a chance to make her stay. He did not have time to put on his shoes and rushed out barefooted. However, Lu Yunran suddenly burst with speed. She opened the door downstairs first and rushed out into the rain. Poplar Fruit stopped at the door. He still had a child in his arms. Poplar Fruit was worried. He quickly turned around and went back inside to carry Kiki into the crib. He turned around and jumped down the stairs in 3 steps, then rushed out into the rain as well. He ran to the entrance of the neighborhood. The rain was pouring down, and he could not see his fingers in front of him. Poplar Fruit tried hard to open his eyes and looked into the distance. However, he could only see a world of white rain. There was no trace of Lu Yunran. The rain washed over Poplar Fruit. In a few seconds, his clothes and shoes were completely soaked. Poplar Fruit searched for a long time, but in the end, he could only walk back in a daze. Chapter 20. Slurp, Slurp. Poplar Fruit walked home step by step. Closing the door, his eyes were empty. He leaned against the door and slid down weakly. The rainwater on his clothes left a trail on the door. Poplar Fruit had guessed that Lu Yunran would be very angry, but he did not expect her to be so unyielding. Poplar Fruit remembered a sentence he had read on the internet before: "A man's biggest failure is to teach his woman how to be strong." Poplar Fruit had once vowed to Lu Yunran that he would never let her face the thunder and lightning alone. But now, Lu Yunran rushed into the storm without looking back. She was unwilling to stay by his side for a second longer. Was this his biggest failure? He took out his phone from his trouser pocket. The screen was still lit up. It seemed that Apple's waterproof phone was quite good. Yonghua pressed the familiar 11 numbers, and the operator's ringtone sounded from the phone. "Answer the phone," Poplar Fruit said in his heart. "Beep. Sorry, the number you have dialed is temporarily unavailable." Did he dial the number? He dialed again. "Sorry, the number you have dialed is temporarily unavailable." He dialed again. "The number you have dialed is currently unavailable." Her phone was turned off. Poplar Fruit listened numbly to the repeated Chinese and English messages on the phone. Lu Yunran's phone was turned off. His hands gradually dropped to his sides. What was going on? Poplar Fruit's mind was in a mess. He had never been so confused before. He hugged his head and bent between his knees. He just sat there in a daze. The water dripping from his hair, clothes, and body gradually gathered into a small puddle. After an unknown amount of time, a burst of crying entered Yonghua's ears. At this time, Yonghua's soul was already reluctant to part, but Chi-Chi's cries caused his 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls to gather again. After a moment of confusion, Poplar Fruit stood up. Perhaps it was because he had bent his legs for too long, but when he stood up, he felt that his lower body was numb. Poplar Fruit stumbled into the bedroom. Just as he was about to pick up the crying Kiki, Poplar Fruit realized that his whole body was wet. He hurriedly ran to the toilet and pulled off the straps and clothes that were soaked in rainwater. He took a clean towel to dry his body and changed into dry clothes before returning to the bedroom. At this time, Kiki had been crying for several minutes. Poplar Fruit felt ashamed. He picked up Kiki and comforted her. Returning to her father's embrace and feeling her father's familiar heartbeat, Kiki's crying gradually stopped. Poplar Fruit kissed Kiki's tender face that had not yet dried tears, and said with some heartache, "Kiki, don't you think that your father is a bastard? Today I made 2 girls cry." Kiki moved a little, and Poplar Fruit felt that something was wrong. A warm current seemed to flow over his body. Oh no! Poplar Fruit remembered that after returning from the hospital, he did not have time to change Kiki's diaper. The previous diaper was thrown into the trash bin by Poplar Fruit because Kiki suddenly pooped at the hospital. He wanted to change it for Kiki when he returned home, but after what happened just now, he forgot about it. Poplar Fruit did not know whether to laugh or cry. He gently hooked Kiki's little nose with his left index finger and said to her, "Kiki, Daddy tried so hard, but in the end, you still peed on Daddy." Ever since he learned how to take care of Kiki from the nurses in the hospital, Poplar Fruit had been paying attention to changing her diaper, but he still fell for it. However, it was said that a father who did not let his baby pee on him was not a qualified father. Poplar Fruit had now completed a milestone in becoming a qualified father. However, the new clothes that he had just changed into were ruined. After solving her personal problem, Kiki became very happy. She was held in her father's arms, and her toothless mouth was wide open. No teeth. Kiki is ugly. After Poplar Fruit finished the appraisal, he hooked her little nose again, causing Kiki to wrinkle her nose. She also raised her hand, but she could not reach her father's chin no matter how hard she tried. After Kiki's antics, Poplar Fruit's mood eased a little. He arranged for the new clothes to be changed, and then prepared hot water for Kiki to take a bath. Although he was a little tired, Poplar Fruit was still very alert for Kiki's sake. He carefully took care of every detail, and there was no situation where he accidentally raised the temperature of the hot water too high. After serving Kiki's bath, milk, and sleep, Poplar Fruit also cleaned himself up. After washing the clothes and coming out of the toilet, Poplar Fruit looked at the sky outside. The rain had stopped, but the sky was dark. Night had fallen in the city. Poplar Fruit turned on his phone and called Lu Yunran again, but her phone was still turned off. Poplar Fruit's heart ached again. He wrote a text message and edited it many times. In the end, there were only 2 short lines left. Are you back in Buddha City? Drink some ginger soup. Don't catch a cold. I'm sorry. Putting down the phone, Poplar Fruit took a deep breath and didn't let his tears fall. There was a saying, a real man bleeds but not tears. These days, Poplar Fruit had shed more tears for Kiki and his girlfriend than he had since he was in junior high school. However, isn't there another old saying that goes like this? A real man doesn't cry easily. It's only because he hasn't been deeply hurt. Poplar Fruit's tears overflowed because he was really afraid. He was worried that his girlfriend of 4 years would leave him. This relationship was too precious and too heavy for him. At this time, Poplar Fruit heard a roaring sound from his stomach. He suddenly realized that he hadn't eaten for a day. But at this time, he wasn't in the mood to cook. He just cooked a small pot of noodles with vegetables and ate it simply with soy sauce. He was in a bad mood. Everything tasted like wax. Poplar Fruit forced himself to swallow it as a way to appease his hunger. After eating and washing the dishes, Poplar Fruit picked up his phone again and looked at it. He was disappointed to see that there was no reply. He called again, but the cold sound of the phone being turned off was still the same. Poplar Fruit, who was in a bad mood, picked up the book, but found that his mind was full of Lu Yunran's tear-filled and determined look today. He couldn't read a single word. Closing her eyes, she saw Lu Yunran rushing into the rain again, her back gradually disappearing. Everything was so vivid when she opened and closed her eyes. Yonghua had nowhere to escape, and nowhere to vent. She could only call her phone again, and then put it down again and again in disappointment. Poplar Fruit sat in a daze for an hour and called for an hour. Finally, the phone ran out of battery and the screen turned completely black. Alas! Poplar Fruit sighed deeply and got up to plug in the charger. Since he was upset and angry, he might as well practice boxing. Poplar Fruit took a deep breath and stood still in the empty space of the living room, silently reciting the Heart Sutras. Tai Chi is born of infinity. It is the mother of yin and yang. When it moves, it separates. When it is still, it combines. A yin-yang fish talisman floated in his heart. 1 yin and 1 yang fish eyes yin fish eyes yang, slowly and endlessly circulating. Poplar Fruit's mood seemed to be absorbed or smoothed out by the yin-yang fish talisman. He recited the Heart Sutras in his heart, and the strength in his meridians followed the guidance of his mind. Bang! Under Poplar Fruit's mind, his right hand slowly moved from the bottom to the top. The strength was perfectly round, and the palm momentum seemed to be unchanged. At any time, he could turn it into a fist, finger, or other moves. When he reached, his shoulders sank, his arms were like an arc, his legs bent, and his waist relaxed. The movements were slow but implied strength. Under the concentration, Poplar Fruit was temporarily immersed in the boxing. This time, the speed of his boxing practice was not as slow as in the early morning. Although there were some beads of sweat on his forehead, it was not to the extent that his head was steaming and his whole body was soaked. Perhaps it was because he had not rested well for the whole day. After Poplar Fruit finished practicing 13 moves, he also felt tired and exhausted. He wiped the sweat on his forehead and picked up the phone. The beauty on the other side of the phone was still as quiet as a yellow crane. Poplar Fruit's expression was gloomy. Perhaps if Kiki did not need him to take care of her, he would have run out to the bar to get drunk. Although alcohol could not extinguish the gloominess in his heart, it could make him lose consciousness at the most painful time. Under the chaos, he did not need to be trapped by love anymore. Poplar Fruit did not know what he could say to Lu Yunran after the phone call. He could not say something as shameless as giving up Kiki and returning to the original state. But other than that, what else could he say to make Lu Yunran forgive him? Poplar Fruit really could not think of a solution that would satisfy both sides. After deleting and changing the text again, only 2 sentences were left in the text. Good night, sorry. Poplar Fruit could not withstand the exhaustion and fell into a deep sleep. The rain in Yongcheng had stopped, but the rain in Buddha City was still falling non-stop. In an apartment in the city center, Lu Yunran leaned against the wall in her pajamas and sat by the floor-to-ceiling window. Her eyes were bright red. In the afternoon, she had received a lot of strange looks from the gangsters all the way back to her room in Buddha City. Since then, Lu Yunran, who had not eaten for the whole day, had been sitting by the window until now. Through the window that was drenched by the rain, she looked at the gradually brightening lights outside. Although she had changed out of her wet clothes and the room was warm, Lu Yunran felt that the city she had worked so hard in for a year was cold and unfamiliar. It was just like the city she had studied and lived in for 4 years. It was huge, but she could not find a place to belong. She did not turn on her phone and did not know what to say to Poplar Fruit. But when she thought of Poplar Fruit, she felt her heart ache. Her mind was filled with the first few years when Poplar Fruit bought her a birthday present, walked with her on the streets, got jealous because of her. Those silly looks on his face. But now, why did Poplar Fruit seem so unfamiliar? She seemed to want to catch the silly but cute Poplar Fruit in her memory. The Poplar Fruit who used to call her Auntie, and she called him Gui-er. Although he was right in front of her eyes, close at hand, she could not catch him. He floated away in an instant. Lu Yunran understood that Poplar Fruit did not change much. It was just that the distance between them, because of a girl and a baby, suddenly became so far away. Both of them desperately stretched their hands forward, but they could not touch each other no matter what. She turned on her phone and saw a lot of missed calls. She also saw the 2 messages from Poplar Fruit that showed his struggle. She did not reply. She turned on the music player. Milk Tea Lu Ruoin's sincere and clear voice floated out from the speaker at the back of the phone. If I retreat to the position of a good friend, you will no longer need me. You won't need it anymore, and you'll be in such a difficult position. I love you so much, so I am willing to give in to you. Fly to a happier place. Lu Yunran's tears poured down again. Her heart felt like it was being cut by a knife, but her thoughts were clearer than ever. It is not easy for 2 people on earth to meet. Even if I cannot be your lover, I am still grateful. I love you so much, so I am willing to not tie you down. Fly to a happier place. The voice was faint, and the heart of the beauty leaning against the window seemed to have drifted away. Chapter 21. It was a new day. After Poplar Fruit woke up, he kept finding things for himself to do. He swept the floor, mopped the floor, washed the clothes, hung the clothes, washed the dishes, wiped the table, tidied the desk, and made the bed. He did the cleaning for a whole week or even a whole month over and over again. But no matter how he tortured himself, it was difficult to calm the uneasiness in his heart. Perhaps Lu Yunran would give him a trial today, or perhaps she wouldn't. Poplar Fruit somewhat hoped that this wait would end as soon as possible, but he also hoped that the trial would never come. Such complicated and contradictory feelings tormented him until noon, until a text message arrived. Poplar Fruit was reading a book uneasily. His memory, which usually had a photographic memory, now had to read it 3 or 4 times before he could remember it because of his lack of concentration. Ding dong. His phone received a text message. Poplar Fruit threw down the book and hurriedly picked up his phone. His usually calm hand slipped and almost dropped it. The lock screen showed that it was indeed a text message from Lu Yunran. Poplar Fruit's right thumb trembled as he swiped open the screen. Poplar Fruit, I'm sorry. I really can't accept the fact that you have a child. I can only let go. I don't want to force you to choose between me and the child. Happiness can't be forced. I also hope that you can find a woman who will accept you in the future. I wish you happiness. Don't call me, and don't come looking for me. When you see this text message, I'll have already left. I want to return to the city that belongs to me, and I want to find happiness that completely belongs to me. Reading this text message, Poplar Fruit seemed to hear Lu Yunran whispering in his ear. Her voice was trembling, but there was determination in her tone. She's gone. She's really gone. After reading this text message, Poplar Fruit thought that he would cry, but he didn't. Instead, he became very calm. He had never been so calm in the past 2 days. When he dialed back, Poplar Fruit heard the sound of the phone being turned off. There was no room for negotiation. In fact, the ending was already decided from the beginning. Wasn't it? Poplar Fruit asked himself. Ever since Poplar Fruit decided to raise Kiki, he had buried the love between him and Lu Yunran in the grave with his own hands. Poplar Fruit smiled bitterly. He had always held on to the hope that there would be a chance to turn things around, but it was all just his own delusion. Is this the end? Poplar Fruit muttered to himself and shook his head. He looked to the south and said softly, I really can't give you the happiness you want. No matter what, you must live well and be happier than me. Otherwise, I can't forgive myself. He wondered if there was a girl sitting in the train heading for the Southern Kingdom, who was silently crying as she looked out of the window. Just like that, the two figures, who had once been so close to each other, disappeared along with the whistling train and the railway that traversed the world. Poplar Fruit sent a text message to Song Jiwen, I'm a lovelorn bird, come and play with me. Then he threw away his phone and focused on reading. His mental calmness was astounding. In the afternoon, Song Jiwen came over. When he came, he brought a lot of things. Poplar Fruit smiled and said, Are you moving all your belongings to my house? It's just some clothes and toiletries. Song Jiwen put down his laptop bag and luggage and said, I'll stay with you for the next 2 days. What do you think? I'm a good brother, right? I'll walk out of the shadow of heartbreak with you. Of course, Poplar Fruit teased him and said, It would be even better if you cooked dinner. F***ck, you know I don't do household chores, Song Jiwen said exaggeratedly. That's not right. Song Jiwen walked around Poplar Fruit twice and said doubtfully, You don't look like you're lovelorn. If that's not the case, what should I look like? Song Jiwen gestured to himself and said, Lovelorn people have messy hair, swollen eyes, depressed expressions, unbuttoned clothes, and pants that are 1 leg high and 1 leg low. Poplar Fruit laughed and scolded, You're a beggar. That's not like you. You're dressed neatly, you can laugh and jump. That's lovelorn. I think I look more lovelorn than you. Song Jiwen took out a towel and wiped his sweat. That's because I'm more open-minded. I don't want to cry like a little girl. Poplar Fruit smiled. Well, you're different from ordinary people. You've always been like this. There's nothing to say. Song Jiwen sat down on the sofa and said, Tell me, although I expected it. Yesterday, I took Kiki to do a paternity test. When I came back, Xiao Ran was at the door. Poplar Fruit said, and he briefly recounted what had happened yesterday. Then this afternoon, she sent a text message to break up. In the end, I didn't even say a word to her. There's no way to make up for it, Poplar Fruit said indifferently. Song Jiwen shook his head and said, Now that you feel like you can't get along, it's better to break up quickly. Otherwise, you'll hold her back. Poplar Fruit nodded and said, I think so too, so I don't want to make up for it. I really can't give Xiao Ran what she wants. It's not good for either of us to hold on too tightly. Let her find her happiness. When Poplar Fruit said this, his heart still ached faintly. However, his expression was as calm as ever, and no one could see the changes in his heart. Song Jiwen had been his buddy for 5 years. How could he not understand? He comforted him and said, Forget it. Let bygones be bygones. Well, I understand. I just can't let it go. Poplar Fruit's voice was a little low. If you can't let it go, it means you're still a good man. But no matter how difficult it is, you still have to let it go. Song Jiwen said, But, Lao Gua, I'm not trying to criticize you. Now that you have a family to feed, it'll be a little troublesome if you want to hook up with girls in the future. We'll talk about the future in the future. I'm not in the mood to think about it now. Poplar Fruit didn't know whether to laugh or cry at his rambling, but he also temporarily walked out of the mood of heartbreak. He raised his head and said, If there's no girl, then there's no girl. My Kiki and I will depend on each other for survival. That night, they cooked 2 simple dishes. After dinner, Poplar Fruit and Song Jiwen got into position and began to torture their opponents. When they entered the game, the map was a satellite base. There were 8 people on each side. Song Jiwen yelled, Rush B. Poplar Fruit didn't care about tactics. He switched to the M4A1 that he was more used to and also shouted in the channel for his companions to rush to point B. When the game started, Poplar Fruit and Song Jiwen were the first to rush out. They went straight to point B. After going around the first pillar, they saw the people at the top of the defenders. Catch them off guard. Song Jiwen yelled. His AK was the first to show its prowess, and he killed the first enemy with a headshot. Poplar Fruit's M4A1 didn't want to be left behind and spat out angry flames. At close range, although it wasn't a headshot, the enemy dropped another corpse after a shuttle of bullets. They hurriedly retreated, but Poplar Fruit didn't give up. He threw a flash and then rushed forward. For a moment, amidst the rain of bullets in front of point B, Poplar Fruit saw a high explosive bullet fly toward him, but it only brushed past his head and landed behind him. He was really too fast. While the enemy was distracted, Poplar Fruit killed another 1.5 enemies, and then he was surrounded by the following enemies. The reason it was only 1.5 enemies was because one of them was half crippled by Poplar Fruit and then blown away by a high explosive bullet thrown by Poplar Fruit's teammate. Song Jiwen followed closely behind, and his AK accurately blew up the head of the last enemy at point B. With Poplar Fruit and Song Jiwen's outstanding performance, this game was quickly and cleanly won. In the second game, Poplar Fruit and Song Jiwen continued to rush. The enemy at point B threw a lot of high explosive bombs to prevent them from rushing, but Poplar Fruit didn't rush to point B. This time, they changed to the middle lane. Poplar Fruit and Song Jiwen dealt with Company A and Company B. Under the crossfire, the enemy in the middle lane suffered heavy casualties. Although they were quickly surrounded by the reinforcements of the defenders, Song Jiwen killed 3 of them, and Poplar Fruit killed 1. Poplar Fruit's teammates learned their lesson. This time, they followed closely behind the 2 of them and took a lot of kills. This time, the defenders were annihilated without being surrounded. After 4 games in a row, the other side couldn't take it anymore. On one hand, they complained on the public channel, Why did the gods come to our place to torture noobs? On the other hand, they had internal strife. They blamed each other, saying that their teammates didn't suppress them and were easily broken through by others. Under the internal strife, the defenders' defense fell apart. Poplar Fruit and Song Jiwen were like killing gods, beating the other side to a pulp. After one game, Poplar Fruit felt that a lot of the depression in his heart had been vented, and he felt a lot more relaxed. He smiled at Song Jiwen and said, I don't feel like beating them anymore. Let's go to the first district of Shanghai to meet those gods. Song Jiwen smiled and said, You are the boss. You are the boss, you have the final say. They exited and changed to the first district of Shanghai. The first district of Shanghai was the practice room for the pro players in the game. When they were in university, Poplar Fruit and Song Jiwen played here before. Within 3 games, they would definitely meet a pro player. With their strength at that time, they couldn't even beat a 2nd or 3rd tier pro player. It was really too difficult to win, so they stayed in the first district of Guangzhou. Due to the plot, it doesn't match reality. Please don't worry about it. After entering the first district of Shanghai, Poplar Fruit and the others easily won the first game. Of course, it wasn't because the pro players were weak, but because there weren't any strong players in the first round. On Poplar Fruit's side, other than Poplar Fruit and Song Jiwen, there were 2 other players with good marksmanship. So, they easily defeated the other side. However, from this round, it seemed that the overall strength of the first district of Shanghai was indeed higher than that of Guangzhou. At the very least, there weren't any noobs who would make things difficult for their teammates. In the second round, Poplar Fruit and the others still mindlessly charged in, but this time, they were dealt a heavy blow. After being charged in once, the other side started to cooperate. High explosive, flash, Poplar Fruit charged in and was killed before they could see anything. The other side had 2 strong players. One of them played a sniper rifle called KG Flame, and the other played an M4A1 called NC Icewater. One look at their IDs and it was obvious that they knew each other. The 2 of them cooperated very well and had a lot of tactical knowledge. Poplar Fruit's side attacked a few times, but the 2 of them overturned the situation. Someone in their team chat sighed and said, "There are 2 pro players on the other side. We can't fight this round." With the low morale, Poplar Fruit's side won the first round and was shaved bald. Poplar Fruit wasn't afraid. Instead, he was excited. After this round, he saw that the 2 pro players on the other side didn't leave the room, so he called out to Song Jiwen. The 2 of them stood opposite the 2 pro players and waited for the next round to begin. Chapter 22. In the new round, the map was changed. It was the Black Town that Poplar Fruit was most familiar with. But this time, they were the defenders. It was still 8 versus 8. The people on the other side hadn't changed much from the previous round. 2 of them were even Poplar Fruit's teammates from the previous round. It seemed like there were many people who wanted to ride on someone's coattails. Because there was an expert on the other side, Poplar Fruit started to play seriously. He switched to his beloved AWM Shadow. Previously, he had figured out KG Flame's strength. He used a Barrett and was very cautious. He changed places after firing and never stayed in the same position. But his marksmanship was still lacking. Poplar Fruit was confident that he could defeat his opponent with his marksmanship. At the start of the game, Poplar Fruit didn't have time to tell his teammates to be careful when they passed through the middle gate. There was a careless person who thought that he was brave and directly jumped out of the middle gate. In the end, Poplar Fruit guessed it. Just as he leaned out, the Barrett's unique gunshot rang out. His team had lost a person at the start of the game. 2 of his teammates went to point B and 3 went to point A. Poplar Fruit let Song Jiwen support them in the middle lane to prevent the opponent from sneaking up on them. He poked his head out to take a look. Sure enough, KG had already left. At this time, point A was connected to the fire. Poplar Fruit went over to provide support. Although the opponent had smoke and grenades, his side was still okay and barely managed to hold on. But suddenly, there was the sound of machine gun fire from point A. On the other side, NC Icewater had killed one of the defenders guarding point A. Poplar Fruit typed in the public channel. "Point A, leave point A to me." Poplar Fruit set up a sniper under the bridge and sniped the enemy coming from point A. Surprisingly, NC Icewater didn't attack from the small path. Instead, she jumped down from the corridor and rushed out from the middle door. NC Icewater's M4A1 was already in the air. Seeing that Poplar Fruit was about to be shot, at this critical moment, 2 bangs were heard. It wasn't from the M4A1, but from Song Jiwen. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Song Jiwen hit NC Icewater's back with 2 shots, one of which hit the head. Pa! In a house in Sichuan province, a boy in a white team uniform tapped on the keyboard and shouted, "Oh, almost, motherfasterous cur." Next to him, a boy wearing a white team uniform, headphones, and a cigarette in his mouth laughed gloatingly. "You failed to rape her and got raped instead, ha. I'll avenge you." In the game, KG's flames surrounded them from Point B. At this time, the teammates at Point B had already swarmed over to support Point A, leaving Point B empty. KG's flames took down Song Jiwen with one shot. Poplar Fruit immediately reacted and jumped onto the platform to take cover. KG's flames was confident in his marksmanship and took the initiative to shoot, but he missed. Poplar Fruit immediately jumped out from the other side of the bunker, scoped in mid-air and pulled the trigger. KG's flames, who didn't have time to hide, fell into a pool of blood. At this time, the enemy's attacks on Point A were getting fiercer and fiercer. Although the defenders had killed one of the enemy's players, there were only 2 defenders left on the platform. The situation was critical. Poplar Fruit didn't return to Point A to participate in the defense. The enemy still had 4 players. If they split up and came from the middle, they would be completely wiped out. Poplar Fruit went out from the middle door and didn't find any enemies on the small path. Yonghua jogged towards the intersection between Bandit Family and a university. In the end, she met love at the corner. No, she met an enemy at the corner. The enemy probably didn't expect to meet defenders at this place, so he was shocked and didn't shoot. Poplar Fruit had the Desert Eagle in his hands. He made a prompt decision and aimed at the enemy's head and fired 3 shots. In reality, the enemy's head had already been blown up by the first shot. Poplar Fruit's hands only trembled due to his nervousness and fired 2 more shots. At this time, Poplar Fruit didn't continue to flank the enemy's buttocks because their tracks had been exposed. Naturally, the lurkers' teammates would warn them. Poplar Fruit beat them at their own game and retreated to Bandit's home. He set up his sniper rifle and aimed at the corner. As expected, the enemy wanted to retreat first and eliminate the threat that was Poplar Fruit with their numbers. As soon as the first enemy appeared, Poplar Fruit pulled the trigger without hesitation. The powerful firepower of the AWM sent the enemy flying and 2 figures jumped out from behind him. At this time, it was obviously too late to fire a second shot. Poplar Fruit decisively pulled back his knife and retreated to the bridge. As expected, as soon as Poplar Fruit retreated, 2 bullets were already flying towards him. The bullets hit the spot where he was just standing, leaving bullet marks on the ground and the wall. Poplar Fruit was not worried about damaging the environment. In the game, the bullet marks would disappear in a few seconds. Poplar Fruit took out a high explosive, pulled the pin and threw it at the wall. However, he regretted throwing the high explosive. The high explosive would only damage the enemy's health. If he wasn't close enough, he wouldn't be able to kill them. It would be better to throw a flash. Poplar Fruit had already thought about it. If everything went well, he would kill one of them with a jump sniper and then finish them off with a Desert Eagle. In the end, the last 2 lurkers were injured when they exchanged fire with the Guardians on Avenue A. Their HP was almost depleted, and as a result, the high explosion deflected off the wall and fell directly to their feet. With a bang, the 2 of them died. F***CK, 2 dead. The one who shouted was Song Jiwen. He was looking at Poplar Fruit's perspective. On the other hand, Poplar Fruit stared blankly at the top right corner of the screen, showing that he had killed 2 people. He felt that it was a little unbelievable. He thought that it would take more effort, but it ended just like that. The team chat was flooded with messages again. In this game, Poplar Fruit, who used a sniper rifle, had taken out 6 people. It was a dazzling record. His teammates were all praising him. In the second game, Poplar Fruit started off with KG Flame in the middle lane. He probably wanted to compete with Poplar Fruit. Poplar Fruit fought with him for 2 rounds. He caught him off guard and took out the opponent's best sniper. The next game was easy. The enemy didn't form an effective attack. Although NC Icewater was very brave, with Poplar Fruit pulling the line of fire, Song Jiwen finished him off with an AK. The second game was also easily won. In the third game, The enemy started to organize a wave of feints to attack Point A and attack Point B. Poplar Fruit didn't catch KG Flame in the middle lane. It seemed that he also understood that he couldn't beat Poplar Fruit in a head-to-head fight. Therefore, he probably retreated to the backfield to be the commander. In this game, the defender's main force was all attracted to Point A, and then Point B was quickly broken through by the lurkers. After getting out of the safe zone, Poplar Fruit's teammates rushed into the enemy's fire zone and fell one after another. Poplar Fruit was also killed by the elusive NC Ice Water from behind. 2 against 1. In the fourth game, Poplar Fruit typed to communicate with his teammates. He told them to defend well and not panic. This time, the enemy attacked Point B first. Poplar Fruit saw that Point B was under attack and thought that the enemy would attack Point A. However, according to Song Jiwen, who was stationed at Point B, the enemy's firepower was very fierce. There were at least 5 or 6 people gathered. Poplar Fruit judged that this wasn't a feint, but a real attack on Point B. Poplar Fruit called for his teammates to support Point B while he himself charged toward Path A. There was no one in Path A, but Poplar Fruit didn't let down his guard. He poked his head out from the corridor and immediately retreated. A sniper bullet hit a wooden post. Sure enough, KG Flame was watching this place to prevent the defenders from surrounding him. Before he fired a second shot, Poplar Fruit jumped out and used the slope as cover to switch to his AWM. He couldn't immediately determine KG Flame's position, but he was sure that this guy wouldn't stay at the sniper's spot. Poplar Fruit crouched and walked to the end of the slope. He suddenly jumped out and quickly twisted his body to dodge. KG Flame saw a figure flash out and pulled the trigger. He then looked through the scope to see if he had hit. This was a bad habit. Poplar Fruit dodged the shot and didn't give his opponent a second chance. He immediately crouched down, opened the scope, and aimed at the direction where the bullet came from. He saw a head in the distance through the scope, but that was enough. Poplar Fruit swung his mouse, pressed the left button, and hid with his blade cutter. However, this shot hit. Poplar Fruit saw the notification on the top of the screen and breathed a sigh of relief from behind cover. The enemy was in the dark while he was in the light. Moreover, the enemy was a professional sniper. This kind of pressure wasn't normal. After taking care of KG Flame, Poplar Fruit went to support Song Jiwen and the others. With Poplar Fruit's encirclement, this round was quickly won. This is a tough one. In the house in Sichuan, the guy with a cigarette in his mouth said as he scratched his head. The guy with the IDNC ice water nodded and said with lingering fear, "This Condor Hero Guy sniper is really overpowered. He's comparable to Brother Bao from the home team." Hee, the guy with the cigarette in his mouth put out the cigarette but in the ashtray and laughed. "No matter how good he is, he's still just an amateur player. Since we can't beat him with guns, let's show them what a professional team is like." "Brother Hua, are you serious now?" NC Icewater said with a smile. "Okay, let's play." After 3-1, Poplar Fruit realized that the enemy's firepower was even fiercer. Not only did they change their tactics, but they also caused a lot of damage to the defenders during their charge. They still used the tactic of flanking from a point, but the main point of attack would always be NC Icewater and KG Flame behind him. The coordination between the two of them was simply too frightening. If the defenders focused their firepower on NC Icewater, then NC Icewater would quickly find cover and the defenders would have a hard time killing this guy who moved erratically. At this time, KG Flame's sniper in the back began to take aim. Any defenders who showed their heads were killed. If the firepower on NC Icewater was slightly weaker, then NC Icewater would let them know what a professional player was. As long as he fired his M4A1, there would be casualties within 3 bullets. The two of them were like a sharp knife, easily tearing open a large gap in the defender's defense. Then, the teammates behind them would swarm forward and quickly finish the battle. This tactic seemed to work every time. Very quickly, Poplar Fruit's team was beaten 5-7. The score was reversed. The only 2 matches they won were when Poplar Fruit took out NC Icewater and KG Flame first. Later, the two of them started to be on guard against Poplar Fruit's sniper. As long as they deliberately hid, Poplar Fruit really couldn't do anything to them for a while. The casualties were too high. Poplar Fruit frowned and typed a command to his teammates. When faced with a strong attack, don't defend. Protect your own life first and retreat. Use flash and high explosive to delay their encirclement. After playing so many matches, Poplar Fruit's strength was obvious to everyone. The defenders also tacitly accepted Poplar Fruit's command. The lurker smoothly got onto the platform. Then, Poplar Fruit commanded his teammates to counterattack. The method used was exactly the same as KG Flames. Poplar Fruit and Song Jiwen became the sharp knives of the counterattack. Although it was just a method he had learned from the enemy, Yang Guo was able to display it to the fullest. Song Jiwen's AK was a far cry from NC Icewater. However, Poplar Fruit's sniper rifle was just like Li Xuanhuan's throwing knives, never missing a target. It perfectly made up for this flaw. Poplar Fruit led the defenders to successfully counterattack 3 times in a row. The score was now 8-7. As long as they took down one more match, they would win. For a moment, the defenders' morale was high. Everyone was rubbing their hands and waiting for the arrival of victory. Suddenly, Kiki's cries could be heard from the baby monitor next to Poplar Fruit's screen. Kiki was awake. Poplar Fruit hurriedly threw down the mouse and stood up. Song Jiwen saw this and shouted, "Old Gua, it's about to start. What are you doing?" "My daughter is awake." "Damn, it's over after one match. You finish it first. It's just a game. Taking care of Kiki is more important," Poplar Fruit said without turning his head. Song Jiwen was helpless. He could only bite the bullet and continue playing. Poplar Fruit's Condor Hero did not move. The result was obvious. They lost one match and the score was tied. The teammates' channel and public chat were immediately flooded with messages. "Why isn't Condor Hero moving? Ha! God save me! Haha, you're going to lose." This was the message from the opponent. "Spear God, do you know what happened to Condor Hero?" Song Jiwen's ID was Spear God. He looked at Poplar Fruit, who was gently comforting Kiki, and helplessly typed a reply. "His daughter is awake. He's going to comfort her. What the F***CK? He loves his daughter more than his country. What a scam. What a scam." Poplar Fruit gave everyone hope when they were in despair. Then, at the moment when they were about to win, he pushed them back into the abyss again. After the last match, KG Flame and NC Icewater, who were far away in Sichuan, didn't know whether to laugh or cry. They thought they were going to lose, but somehow they won again. The two looked at each other. KG Flame said with lingering fear, "This Condor Hero is too strong. He learned our way of bullying noobs in just a few matches. Yeah, if he didn't suddenly stop moving, we would have lost." NC Icewater wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. "What a pity," KG Flame said regretfully. "He's already an uncle with a daughter. I was just thinking of asking him to join our team." Chapter 23. Song Jiwen got up early in the morning. Luckily, they didn't stay up too late last night. Poplar Fruit, who had nothing to do, leisurely watched Song Jiwen carry his bag to work. He slowly finished his breakfast, packed his things, and then woke Kiki up to serve milk to the little princess. Poplar Fruit was going to get the paternity test report today, but he wasn't in a hurry at all. Before he left, he even spent half an hour to let Kiki try on all the beautiful clothes. Perhaps it was because no one could tell that Kiki was a girl the last time they went out, which triggered him. Kiki looked very happy today. She was wearing a little pink embroidered dress. Lying in her father's arms, she wasn't quiet at all. She kept turning her head and looking around. Poplar Fruit simply let her sit on his chest with her face facing the outside. Of course, Kiki was so small that she couldn't sit properly. She had to rely on the straps to support her. This made her even more excited. She waved her little arms and made strange sounds. When they arrived at the hospital, head nurse Jiang wasn't on duty during the day, so Poplar Fruit went directly to the paternity test center to find the nurse who did the test last time. The nurse was already prepared. When she saw Poplar Fruit knock on the door and enter, she smiled and handed him a small stack of papers. This was the result of the paternity test. Poplar Fruit originally thought that his heart would be as calm as still water, but when he reached out, he realized that his hands were trembling slightly. It seemed that she was still very concerned about this result. Yong's throat involuntarily moved. She swallowed her saliva and took the report. The nurse didn't say anything. She smiled as she watched Poplar Fruit open the report with trembling hands. The verdict was coming. As if sensing her father's serious expression, Kiki also raised her head to look at the stack of papers. She kept making strange noises along the way and pursed her lips tightly. Poplar Fruit's heart pounded. He summoned his courage and opened the first page, only to see a statement and a scan of the forensic identification permit on the first page. Poplar Fruit held his breath. The second and third pages listed some data and process descriptions. Poplar Fruit ignored them and flipped to the last page. On the fourth page, he finally saw the words, Identification Conclusion. Poplar Fruit calmed down and continued reading. According to the results of the DNA genetic marker typing, Poplar Fruit is Yang Luoqi's biological father. Supporting Poplar Fruit was Yang Luoqi's biological father. Poplar Fruit read this sentence over and over again. In fact, with his memory, he could recite it backwards after reading it the first time. However, he was anxious to confirm that he had read it correctly. He glanced at the analysis again and saw that the probability of a biological relationship was 99%. 9,999%. Poplar Fruit smiled happily. He lowered his head and kissed Chi-Chi. He rubbed her little head and said with a smile, Chi-Chi, you've finally become Daddy's daughter in name and in name. As if she had been released from her depression, Kiki also cried out, Yeah, yeah. Her little hand scratched the report. Poplar Fruit quickly raised his arm and said, Hey, don't move. This is the key to whether you can be registered in Dad's household register or not. The nurse next to them had seen too many fathers like Poplar Fruit who were so happy that their mouths were grinning from ear to ear when they read the report. She just stood aside with a smile and didn't go forward to disturb the warm moment between the father and daughter. After coming out, Poplar Fruit fed Kiki water while calling Song Jiwen. Mosquito, yes, it's me. Let's go to your house for dinner tonight. Yes, I got Kiki's report. Needless to say, she must be my, Poplar Fruit's, daughter. What do you mean by I'm in a hurry to register my daughter's household register? Poplar Fruit shouted into the phone a little guiltily, I also want to visit my godparents. Okay, I'll stop talking, I'll go back first. I'll bring your things over first. You can go home directly after work tonight. Okay, see you tonight. After putting the phone and the milk bottle away, Poplar Fruit wiped the water from Kiki's mouth with a small handkerchief. He said to himself, Kiki, Dad is happy today, let's not squeeze in the subway, let's take a taxi. Sitting in the taxi, Poplar Fruit proudly took out the report and flipped to the back to look at the results. He proudly kissed the photo of himself and Kiki, then wrapped it in a file and stuffed it into his bag. If Song Jiwen saw it, he would definitely laugh at him for being a show-off. When they got home, Poplar Fruit only made milk for Kiki because they bought food on the way home. Then he and Kiki had a good afternoon nap. Before going in the afternoon, Poplar Fruit called his godmother first. His godmother, Lu Suchin, had already retired, and she didn't like to chat and dance with the old ladies in the neighborhood every day, so she often watched soap operas at home and was very bored. When she heard that Poplar Fruit was coming, she was very happy and repeatedly asked Poplar Fruit to bring Kiki over quickly. The old lady had been looking forward to holding a grandson for a long time. Although Song Jiwen changed girlfriends frequently, he had never dated for more than half a year. In addition, Song Jiwen had just started work and was still young, so it wasn't good to rush him. Poplar Fruit had acknowledged his godparents when he was in university. He had always been very sweet in front of his elders, and he was very diligent every time he came home, helping to cook. Lu Suchin and Song Jiwen's father, Song Chunfong, had long treated Poplar Fruit as their own son. Lu Suqin didn't expect that before her son had a child, her godson would have a child first. Although the process sounded strange, Kiki was Poplar Fruit's daughter after all, wasn't she? After hearing Song Jiwen's words, Lu Suqin had been thinking about it for a long time. Kiki was still sleeping. Poplar Fruit packed some of Kiki's things, took a bag, and was about to stuff it into Song Jiwen's luggage. But when he pulled open the zipper, he saw a pile of messy clothes. Poplar Fruit frowned and pulled it up again. He rummaged through his backpack again and put Kiki's things in. Poplar Fruit carried the backpack, carried Kiki in one hand, and picked up Song Jiwen's luggage with the other. Two of his fingers were still hooking the folded baby stroller. Fortunately, Poplar Fruit was strong. If it was Song Jiwen, he would probably drop the stroller after taking one. After going downstairs, Poplar Fruit put Kiki in the stroller and covered her with a small quilt. It was much easier to push her. It had to be said that the quality of the imported stroller, which was bought for more than 1,000 yuan, was really good. Walking on the asphalt path, the slight bumps were offset by the shock absorber springs. Kiki lay in the stroller and slept without feeling any discomfort. On the way, they met Lu Gillen. Lu Gillen saw Poplar Fruit's bags and asked in surprise, "Poplar Fruit, where are you going? Are you going back to your hometown or moving?" Poplar Fruit smiled and said, "No, I'm just going to visit a relative. This bag of things is Song Jiwen's. I'm going to give it to him." As he spoke, he raised the bag in his hand and gestured to Lu Gillen. Lu Gillen enthusiastically helped Poplar Fruit carry the bag and ran to the gate of the community to stop a taxi for him. Lu Suqin was waiting anxiously. In the taxi, Poplar Fruit received several calls from her. She kept asking if Poplar Fruit had arrived. When Poplar Fruit just got out of the taxi with Kiki in his arms, the old lady, who was waiting at the gate of the community, trotted all the way to greet them. Without any explanation, she took Kiki from Poplar Fruit's arms. Poplar Fruit took out the bag and the stroller from the trunk of the taxi and said to her, "Godmother, why didn't you stay at home? Why did you come out to pick me up? It's not the first time I've come." Lu Suqin glared at Poplar Fruit and said, "Who said I'm here to pick you up? I'm here to pick up my granddaughter." She smiled and looked at Kiki, who was wrapped in a small quilt, and said, "My granddaughter is so cute. Look at her small face. She's a beauty." Poplar Fruit curled his lips and said, "She's not even a month old yet. How can you tell that she's a beauty?" However, he only said this in his heart and didn't dare to talk back to Lu Suqin. Of course, when his godmother said that his daughter was beautiful, Poplar Fruit was actually secretly happy in his heart. Unfolding the baby stroller, Poplar Fruit said, "Godmother, put Kiki in the car. It's tiring to carry her." "It's okay. It's just a few steps." Lu Suqin didn't look back. She carried Kiki and walked home. Poplar Fruit was helpless. He smiled bitterly and pushed the empty stroller behind them. The Song family lived in a duplex with more than 100 square meters. It was much more comfortable than the small house rented by Poplar Fruit. On the first floor, there were 3 bedrooms, 2 living rooms, and 2 bathrooms. The big master room was for Song Chunfang and the others. The small rooms were a guest room and a study room. Song Jiwen lived on the second floor. There were 2 rooms on the second floor, but there was no living room. Therefore, the ceiling of the living room on the first floor was very high. The whole house was decorated in an antique style. Even the coffee table in the living room was carved out of tree roots. On the wooden shelf between the living room and the dining room, there were some antiques such as porcelain, brushes, and inkstones. There were also some photo frames placed at random intervals. At a glance, it made people feel that the owner of the house was very particular. After entering the house, Lu Suqin was busy carrying the child. She sat on the solid wood sofa like an empress dowager and softly instructed Poplar Fruit to do the work. Poplar Fruit didn't stand on ceremony. After he put everything away, he took a bag of tea from the cabinet in the dining room and walked back to the living room to sit down. People in Guangdong liked to drink tea. Anyone who could afford it would have a tea set at home. On the Song family's root-carved coffee table, there was a set of exquisite tea set. The tea tray was carved, polished, and made of a whole chessboard-shaped piece of brown and black solid wood. In the middle of the tray, there was a hollowed-out water hole that could be removed for easy cleaning. On the right side, there was a small induction cooker for boiling water. It was a combination of classical and scientific. It didn't look out of place. In addition to the stainless steel kettle for boiling water, there was a teapot, a fair cup, and 6 teacups on the tea tray. These were different from the white and blue porcelain cups of the ordinary people in Guangdong. The Song family's teapot was made of fine purple sand from Jiangsu. It looked simple and unadorned, but it was the favorite of tea drinkers. Poplar Fruit used to think that it was a little strange. Logically speaking, a purple sand kettle and purple sand cup should be accompanied by better tools for boiling water. He didn't ask for a very particular red clay stove, but at the very least, he should use an open flame stove and an iron hanging pot to boil water. Using an induction cooker and a stainless steel kettle to boil water felt a little wasteful. Later, when he heard Song Jiwen say that the tea tray and other items were not a complete set, Poplar Fruit felt relieved. Of course, there was nothing wrong with using an induction cooker to boil water. It was efficient, and there was electronic control of the water temperature. The actual effect was not necessarily worse than the previous two. It could only be said that Poplar Fruit's cultured mind was playing tricks. Chapter 24. Kung Fu tea is very particular. There are many steps to brew and taste it. It takes a lot of effort to drink a cup of Kung Fu tea. In ancient times, the Kung Fu tea had to first burn incense and calm the qi. There were also many complicated customs. However, such a complete Kung Fu tea process could only be seen in high-end tea houses or clubs. How could ordinary people play with so many tricks? The water used in the Song family's tea is spring water from the mountains in the suburbs. The spring water is poured into the plastic bucket used in the water dispenser. After paying for it, someone will send over a bucket every day. Feng Yu does not need to insert it into the water dispenser. He just plugs in a simple water dispenser and presses the plastic water pump to squeeze out the air from the water dispenser. Under the strong atmospheric pressure, the spring water flows out from the water dispenser. Poplar Fruit fills half a pot with spring water and puts it in the induction cooker to boil. Half a pot sounds small, but it is not. This stainless steel kettle is too big. It is enough to boil half a pot. Without waiting for the water to boil, she heard the sound of the boiling water in the kettle become softer. Yongguo lifted it up and used a pair of special tweezers to pick up the Yixing clay kettle and the Yixing clay cup. After rinsing them, she put the kettle back to continue boiling. You are just like old Song. You have to go through so much trouble just to drink tea. From what I see, you can just drink it in a big tea vat. Lu Suqin is watching from the side. She does not like so many formalities. The carefree Song Jiwen is just like her. Poplar Fruit pours the tea leaves into the teapot and fills half of the teapot. When the water starts to boil and bubbles form on the surface, Poplar Fruit turns off the induction cooker, picks up the kettle, and pours the boiling water into the kettle. The first batch of tea is not to be drunk. Poplar Fruit pours the tea into the fair cup and then pours in the boiling water for the second time. Poplar Fruit covers the kettle and pours the boiling water into the kettle. This step can make the tea leaves in the kettle taste better. The first batch of tea in the fair cup can be used to rinse the teacup again. After pouring away the waste tea, Poplar Fruit added a strainer to the fair cup. He used his thumb, index finger, and middle finger to pick up the already dry Yixing clay teapot and poured all the brewed tea into a fair cup. The tea foam that floated out of the teapot was blocked by the filter. When the filter was removed, only the clear yellow tea was left. Poplar Fruit first poured a cup and placed it in front of Lu Suqin on a small cushion. "Godmother, please have some tea." Lu Suqin picked up the teacup and covered it with her left hand to prevent the hot water from dripping onto Kiki's body. She drank it while it was still hot. Not bad. However, she couldn't pinpoint exactly what was so good about it. Poplar Fruit refilled her glass and then poured himself a glass. He picked it up and sniffed it. Then, he took a small sip and finished it in one gulp. The tea leaves in the dining room of the Song family were not the best, but they were still very good Chuanzhou Tiguanyin tea. It smelled fragrant. At first, there was a faint bitter taste. After drinking it, one would feel the aftertaste sweet and full of saliva. The second batch of tea was the most fragrant and had to be drunk while it was hot. Usually, one person would drink a cup, but today, only 2 people drank it. Poplar Fruit drank the rest of the cups one by one. Lu Suqin drank the tea slowly and chatted with Poplar Fruit. "I heard from Jiwen that you quit your job now?" Lu Suqin asked. Yes. Kiki can't leave me now. She won't drink milk when I'm not around. She can't stop crying. You know my job. I have to work overtime. Recently, the manager wants me to go on a business trip to Yingjili. I might as well quit my job. Poplar Fruit said. The delay is because of you. Lu Suqin sighed. You do a good job. It's a pity that you quit. Don't I have to take care of her? What's there to be sorry about? Poplar Fruit laughed. You discussed with me before and asked me to take care of her for you. You could have picked her up when I got off work. I tried before, but the neighbor called at noon and Kiki called me back. The most important thing was that Kiki was seriously ill that night. I don't think it's a good idea. I have to do it. You make it sound so easy. If you don't work, how can you afford to take care of the child? Let me calculate for you. Buying diapers and milk powder for her costs at least 1,000 yuan a month. When she grows up, you have to buy things like fish liver oil, calcium powder, and a bunch of other nutritional products. That's at least 300 to 400 yuan a month. On average, you'll need 300 to 400 yuan a month to buy clothes. There's also physical examinations and vaccinations. Usually, when a child has a minor illness, you'll need to spend money. If you don't prepare 3,000 yuan a month, it won't be enough for her. It's easy now, but what about when she grows up? When she goes to kindergarten or primary school, you'll need to spend tens of thousands of yuan. Lu Suqin counted with her fingers as she spoke to Poplar Fruit. Poplar Fruit was sweating profusely. That's why you think it's easy now. With your little savings, you won't be able to raise a child. Lu Suqin concluded. The long-winded speech made Lu Suqin's mouth dry. She finished the tea in her cup in one gulp. Poplar Fruit hurriedly poured another cup for her. Godmother, it's not that I haven't considered this. But later, I thought it through. Since my English is good, I can be a translator for others. I saw a translation company called Xinda before. If you do well, you can earn 300 yuan by translating 1,000 words. This can be done at home. I've tried. I can finish 1,000 words in 2 hours. If I work hard, I can read 5,000 words a day. I can earn at least 30,000 yuan a month. I've heard of Xinda. It's a big company in Tianhe. It's good to earn 30,000 yuan, but didn't you say that it's done well? Lu Suqin said. Don't think that I don't understand English. It's the same in every industry. Only the most capable people can earn a lot of money. Yes. Godmother, you're right. Poplar Fruit said with admiration. That's right. Only gold medal translators can earn this much. But I've been revising these few days. When I'm done, I'll take the test to become a gold medal translator. I'm confident in this. Don't worry. Lu Suqin sighed and said, You're an adult now. Godmother won't help you decide. You can think about it yourself. If you can't do it, don't worry too much. When Kiki grows up, I'll help you talk to Old Song and introduce you to a job. Okay, thank you, Godmother. Although he was confident in himself, Poplar Fruit was still very grateful for his grandmother's kindness. You didn't tell your mother about this? Lu Suqin asked. Poplar Fruit scratched his head and said embarrassedly, I haven't told her yet. I'm afraid that she'll worry for nothing if she finds out. Look at what you're saying. What do you mean by worry for nothing? Lu Suqin pointed at him with her right hand and scolded, Poor parents. Which parent doesn't want their child to live a better life? It's called thinking for your sake. Poplar Fruit quickly lowered his head and admitted his mistake. It's not a problem if you don't tell your mother. Lu Suchin shook her head. Although Poplar Fruit admitted his mistake, he still insisted, I really can't let her know now. I quit my job. If she finds out, she'll be so worried that she won't be able to sleep. It's better to wait until I earn some money and my conditions are better. Then I'll tell my family. Lu Suchin saw that she couldn't persuade him, so she stopped talking about this topic. Yesterday, Jiwen went to your house. I heard that you were heartbroken? Lu Suchin asked. Yeah, I broke up with my girlfriend. When Poplar Fruit said this, his expression was casual as if he was gossiping about someone else. Is it because of Kiki? No, it's mainly because their personalities don't match. Poplar Fruit lied. He didn't know why, but he was a little resistant to others saying that Lu Yunran left him when he was in such a difficult situation. Probably because she didn't want others to think that she was a heartless person. Lu Suchin had lived for many years. How could she not understand Poplar Fruit's little thoughts? However, she didn't point it out. She comforted Poplar Fruit. Don't worry too much. A man doesn't have to worry about not having a wife. In a few days, I'll introduce you to a few. Poplar Fruit was drinking tea. When he heard this, he quickly put down the teacup and waved his hand. With a bitter smile, he said, Godmother, you don't have to worry about this. I'm still young. I'm not in a hurry to get married. He hated blind dates the most. A man and a woman who didn't know each other would come to a cafe and put on airs. They would scheme against each other to test each other. They would do everything possible to find out if the other party had a house or a car. Just thinking about it made him sick. You don't understand. Your daughter is still young, and you're not that old. It's easier to find a suitable one. When you're older, people will see that you have a young daughter. Then it'll be difficult. Lu Suchin advised him. Poplar Fruit's scalp went numb. He had heard from Song Jiwen that his mother liked to be a matchmaker. Every day, she would introduce a girl to a young man who was alone in the neighborhood. Now he was seeing it for himself. He quickly used the delaying tactic and said, Don't worry. I just broke up. I'm not in the mood to start a new relationship. When Poplar Fruit said this, Lu Suchin couldn't persuade him anymore. She just said that she would help look for a suitable girl. Poplar Fruit saw that he had dealt with it. He secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He would talk about the future later. Poplar Fruit was about to go out to buy food when Lu Suchin stopped him. She said that there was everything in the fridge. There was no need to go out to buy food. The Song family's fridge was a large double-door fridge. When he opened it, it was full of fruits and vegetables. In the freezer, there were mackerel, bass, shrimp, pork belly, beef, pork ribs, and half a chicken. In the freezer, there were all kinds of vegetables and fruits. Almost half of the market was stuffed in. Yonghua couldn't help but click her tongue. She had never seen so many dishes before. Lu Suchin explained that the seafood was sent from a nearby county by a relative who came to visit yesterday. The other dishes were bought by the housekeeper in the morning and had been prepared for a few days. It was better to come early than to come at the right time. Poplar Fruit was in a hurry today. He took out the dishes he was going to cook tonight from the freezer and put them in the freezer to defrost a little. During the conversation, Kiki woke up. Poplar Fruit wanted to hold her, but Lu Suchin pushed him away and said, It's okay. Let me try. Kiki had just woken up. She couldn't open her eyes. She seemed to feel that it was not her father's body temperature that she was familiar with. She began to moan and twist in Lu Suchin's arms. Lu Suchin held her in a circle and coaxed her. Kiki suddenly caught a glimpse of her father and quieted down. She just kept turning her head in the direction of Poplar Fruit as Lu Suchin turned around. Poplar Fruit found it funny and said to Lu Suchin, Godmother, don't turn around. Kiki is going to be dizzy because of you. Lu Suchin saw that Kiki was very obedient in her arms. She was very happy. She smiled and kissed Kiki's little hand. She said to Poplar Fruit, "See, Kiki and I are very close." Poplar Fruit didn't expose it. As long as the old woman was happy, it was fine. He took out Kiki's milk powder and bottle from his backpack and went to make milk for Kiki. Chapter 25. After making the milk and testing the temperature, Lu Suchin took the milk bottle from Poplar Fruit. She even snatched the right to feed the baby. In her words, she was able to raise the unlucky boy Song Jiwen back then. Would it be a problem to feed a baby who was less than a month old now? Kiki saw the pacifier extended to her mouth. She opened her small mouth obediently and gently sucked on it. Her big sparkling eyes looked at her father for a while, and then turned back to look at the young grandmother who was holding her. Lu Suchin looked at Kiki, and the deep wrinkles at the corners of her eyes smoothed out. She looked 10 years younger. Yonggua, Yonggua. Lu Suchin didn't even raise her head as she called out, "Hurry up and bring a wet towel over." Chi-Chi still has some eye mucus at the corner of her eyes when she woke up. Poplar Fruit slowly took out Kiki's small towel from his backpack. He moistened it with hot water and felt that the temperature was suitable before bringing it over. "Why are you so slow?" Lu Suchin, who was impatient, urged. She put the milk bottle on the table before taking the towel. Kiki saw that the pacifier was pulled away and cried out unhappily, "Oh, my little ancestor, don't worry, don't worry. Let Grandma help you wipe your eyes before you drink." Lu Suchin hurriedly coaxed her while gently wiping Kiki's eyes with the wet towel. Then she turned it over and used the clean side to wipe Kiki's face. Poplar Fruit took the small towel and took it to the kitchen sink to wash it. Poplar Fruit, Lu Suchin called out again. Come out, come out. What's wrong? What's wrong?" Poplar Fruit hurriedly wrung the towel and walked out. "She wants to cry when she can't see you." Lu Suchin was a little annoyed. Really, she doesn't listen to Grandma. As soon as Poplar Fruit came out, he saw Kiki's small mouth puckered and tears rolling in her eyes. He hurriedly walked over, and Chi-Chi finally saw the body that made her feel at ease through her hazy tears. She blinked, and finally stopped crying. Alas, the towel was washed for nothing. Poplar Fruit grabbed a towel and wiped her tears. "You have to let her see me." Poplar Fruit smiled. "She's really your biological daughter," Lu Suchin said unhappily. "You have to follow her closely." Poplar Fruit laughed and said, "Godmother, let me show you something." He took out a file from his backpack and took out a stack of documents. He sat down and flipped through them for Lu Suchin to see. Poplar Fruit is Yang Luoqi's biological father. Lu Suchin read the line and smiled. "You little brat, hurry up and put it away. Do I still need to look at this thing? Look at her and you're practically made from the same mold. You can't run away." "Are these the things that old Song was talking about?" Lu Suchin asked. "Yes, the paternity test report, ID card, household register, and photocopies are all here." Poplar Fruit patted the file. "When old Song comes back later, remember to give them to him." At around 5:30, the nanny came. "Hey, Poplar Fruit is also here today." The nanny greeted as she changed into slippers by the shoe cabinet. "Hello, Auntie Mao." Poplar Fruit stood up. "Since you're here, I'll have to hand over the responsibility of cooking over to you again. I wonder what delicious dishes you'll be able to secretly learn today?" Auntie Mao smiled. "You're too modest, Auntie Mao. The soup you make is the best." "Sister Lu, hey, whose child is this?" Auntie Mao walked in and saw Kiki drinking milk in Lu Suchin's arms. "Haha, look, isn't she standing right in front of you?" Lu Suchin smiled. "Poplar Fruits?" Auntie Mao said in surprise. "I've never seen you bring her here before." Auntie Mao came from the countryside and had seen too many young people getting married and having children in their teens, so she wasn't as surprised as others that Poplar Fruit had a child in his early 20s. She was born at the end of last month. Poplar Fruit said with a smile. Since it was time to cook, Lu Suchin had to carry Kiki to sit in the dining room. The kitchen door was transparent so that Kiki could see Poplar Fruit's figure and wouldn't make a fuss. "Shall we cook pork rib soup?" Auntie Mao asked. "Okay." Poplar Fruit nodded. They took out base, prawns, pork belly, beef, pork ribs, vegetables, carrots, corn, lotus roots, onions, and chives from the fridge. Auntie Mao picked up the prawns and was about to peel the shells when Poplar Fruit stopped her and said, "Auntie Mao, you don't have to peel all the prawns today. Just remove the prawns, cut the shell with scissors, and then remove the prawns." Poplar Fruit took out the vermicelli from the cabinet and soaked it in water. Then, he started to cut the pork belly. A long strip of pork belly was cut into pieces by Auntie Mao. She heard a series of knife sounds. When Auntie Mao looked back, the pork belly had been cut into pieces that were half a finger wide and 2 fingers long. Although the speed was fast, the shape of the pieces were actually uniform. Poplar Fruit put the cut pork belly on the plate next to him and ignored her. "Don't we need to marinate it?" Auntie Mao asked curiously. "No, we need to braise it later to infuse the flavor," Poplar Fruit said as he cut the beef. "By the way, Auntie Mao, marinate the prawns with salt and cooking wine later." The beef was cut into thin slices that were about 1 centimeter thick. Poplar Fruit added corn flour, ginger slices, pepper, cooking wine, soy sauce, and soybean oil to marinate it. After doing all this, Poplar Fruit did not continue to process the base. Instead, he washed his hands and turned on 2 stoves. He boiled water in a clay pot and heated up a pot. Auntie Mao took the knife and chopping board and washed them briefly. Then, she started to process her pork ribs, carrots, corn, and lotus roots. When the pot was heated up, Poplar Fruit added half a spoonful of oil. Then, he poured in the pork belly and stir-fried it on low heat. When the pork belly turned slightly yellow, Poplar Fruit added a few cloves of garlic and ginger slices. After stir-frying it twice, he added soy sauce to increase the color. Then, he poured in rice wine and scooped a spoonful of sugar. After stir-frying, Poplar Fruit lifted the pot with his left hand and slowly poured the pork belly into the clay pot. After the clay pot boiled water, he lowered the heat and covered it with a lid to simmer it slowly. "What's this pork belly called?" Auntie Mao asked. She had also processed her pork ribs and other ingredients. Then, she put them into the electric soup cooker that was specially used for cooking soup. This cooking method is said to be a Hakka dish. However, it doesn't have a special name. Poplar Fruit laughed. After wiping his sweat, he took out the base. Although it was not as fresh after being frozen, Poplar Fruit still planned to steam it. The base's innards had already been processed. Poplar Fruit only made a small cut in the middle of the fish's back. This cut was mainly to prevent the fish's skin from being broken by the steam during steaming. It would better protect the fish's appearance. After cutting it, he added cooking wine, salt, and pepper to marinate it. While waiting, Poplar Fruit took a scallion and sliced it into thin strips. He did the same with the ginger. Some of the ginger and scallion were stuffed into the fish's belly. The rest was spread out at the bottom and sprinkled on the surface. Auntie Mao, who was at the side, helped to cook and prepare the vegetables. Poplar Fruit scooped up the vermicelli and placed it on a plate. The prawns were symmetrical with their heads facing in and tails facing out. Then, he sprinkled garlic on top. After opening the clay pot, Poplar Fruit stirred the pork belly to prevent it from sticking together. Then, he continued to cook. "It's time to start cooking." Before that, Poplar Fruit put the base into the steamer basket and placed it on the rice cooker. He steamed the fish using the steam from the rice cooker. After the wok was heated, Poplar Fruit poured some oil into the chopped onions and stir-fried them. He scooped them up and placed them on a plate. Then, he poured the oil into the beef. The beef could not be stir-fried for too long. If it was stir-fried for too long, it would be overcooked. When the color was about to change, he could pour in the onions and Poplar Fruit. Then, He added the oyster sauce and light soy sauce to stir fry. The main thing was to stir fry the sauce evenly and put it on a clean plate. Auntie Mao helped to wash the dishes so that Poplar Fruit would not be in a hurry. Poplar Fruit boiled a plate of vegetables. After scooping them up, he drizzled the oil and mixed the soy sauce. Auntie Mao quickly carried the dish out and went back to the kitchen to wash a pair of chopsticks and stir them. With a bang, the door closed, and Song Jiwen came back. Lao Gua, are you stir-frying? It smells so good. His voice could be heard even before he arrived. Song Jiwen wanted to take Auntie Mao's chopsticks and eat a piece of beef. Lu Suqin scolded him. You just came back and you already want to eat secretly. Why would I want to eat secretly? I just want to help Auntie Mao mix the vegetables. Song Jiwen retracted his hand and said embarrassedly. Humph, do you think I don't know you? Lu Suqin smiled proudly. Poplar Fruit poked his head out and said, Wait a minute. It will be ready soon. Kiki saw her father poking his head out and thought that he was playing games again. She opened her mouth and shouted happily. Poplar Fruit washed the pot and boiled the water. Then, he put the water into an inverted plate and placed the plate of prawns into it. He covered the lid and steamed it. After estimating the time, he opened the lid of the rice cooker and looked at the perch in the steamer basket. The fish's eyes were bulging. The fish was ready. After waiting for another half a minute, the rice was ready. Poplar Fruit pulled out the wire. After 2 to 3 minutes, Poplar Fruit opened the lid and took out the prawns with vermicelli and sprinkled some chopped green onions. It's not over yet. He washed the pot and heated the oil. He scooped a spoonful and poured it over the prawns. Finally, he added some soy sauce and sesame oil. He signaled Auntie Mao to bring it out. Poplar Fruit took out the perch in the steamer basket with a pair of tongs and gently poured the water on the plate. He scooped up the remaining hot oil in the pot and poured it over the fish. Then, he mixed some special soy sauce and drizzled it over. The white and tender fish on the back of the fish formed a sharp contrast with the dark sauce at the bottom of the plate. The smell was enough to make one's mouth water. At this time, Song Chunfong came back. He was also happily teasing Chi-Chi in the dining room, while Song Jiwen was staring covetously at the delicious food on the table, drooling all over the floor. After Auntie Mao finished washing the dishes, she said goodbye and went home. Lu Suqin asked her to stay and eat with her, but Auntie Mao smiled and declined. She also had a child at home, so it was not convenient for her to stay for dinner. The fish is here. Poplar Fruit was wearing an apron and holding the steamed perch. He shouted, Wash your hands and eat. The taste will be bad if it gets cold. Song Jiwen was the first to run with a grin. Poplar Fruit turned off the stove and wrapped a towel around it. He held the steaming pot of pork belly and brought it to the table. Song Jiwen picked up his chopsticks and directly picked up a piece of pork belly from the steaming pot. He blew on it twice and stuffed it into his mouth. The pork belly was still very hot. Song Jiwen grimaced as he stirred the meat in his mouth. He gave a thumbs up and praised, Oh, delicious. Oh, it's so delicious. He could not even speak clearly. Song Chunfong helped to bring out the lotus root corn pork rib soup. Poplar Fruit also took the rice from the rice cooker and put it on the cushion on the table. He washed his hands and opened the baby stroller. He took Kiki and carried her to sit in the stroller. Kiki wanted her father to carry her for a while more, so she cried out, Ah, ah. Poplar Fruit kissed her and smiled. Kiki, sit for a while. Daddy will carry you after dinner, okay? Kiki quieted down and looked at her father with round eyes as he sat at the table. They ate and gave him a thumbs up as they ate. It was as if this was a family dinner on New Year's Eve. Everyone's expression was very happy, and their smiles were brimming with happiness. The steam from the food softened the lights and made the atmosphere in the dining room more warm. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.